Chapter 601 Conquering two-thirds of the Mayans. The female leader and priest of the Juarez tribe was able to gather the Maya tribes in the Yucatan Peninsula to form a large-scale coalition to attack the Athenians. This was of course a good thing that Roy could only dream of. After all, Athenian soldiers were not only well-trained professional soldiers, but also equipped with advanced iron weapons and iron armor. The Mayans in the Neolithic age could only recruit farmers and herdsmen as soldiers and let them fight with stone and wooden spears. The strength gap between the two sides is like a huge chasm. And the Athenian soldiers are a complete dimensionality reduction blow to the Mayan soldiers. Even if the Mayan soldiers have 10 or even 20 times the numerical advantage, it is absolutely impossible to resist the dimensionality reduction attack of the Athenian soldiers. Unfortunately, reality will eventually disappoint Roy. Roy waited for a month, but failed to wait for the Mayan army of 100,000 people. With the efforts of the female leader and priest of the Juarez tribe, only the Uxmal tribe in the northern Yucatan Peninsula finally summoned the Mayan tribes in the northern region and organized a 30,000-strong Mayan army to attack the Athenians. This also means that Roy's good wish to defeat all the Mayan tribes in the Yucatan Peninsula in a war is completely shattered. To conquer the Mayan tribes in the Yucatan Peninsula, Roy must waste a lot of time defeating them one by one. 1596 BC. July. The Mayan coalition led by the Uxmal tribe came to Puerto Juarez. Accompanying them was Chalchutriqui, the water god, the patron saint of the Uxmal tribe. The current water god Chalchutriqui is still a trinity goddess with the Quetzalcoatl god Ixotel. She can be seen directly as Quetzalcoatl, or as the sister of Quetzalcoatl. During this time, the Athenians had built a wall in Port Juarez to protect the port. But Roy did not choose to use the wall to defend the city. Before the Mayan coalition could launch an attack, Roy led 3,000 Athenian soldiers to attack the Mayan coalition outside the city. There is no doubt about the outcome of this war. Even if the Mayan coalition had a tenfold numerical advantage, it would never be able to defeat the dimensionality reduction attack of the Athenian soldiers. On the grassland west of Puerto Juarez, while the Athenian army was fighting with the Mayan coalition, Metis, the patron saint of the Athenians, and Chalchutriquis, the patron saint of the Mayans, also faced off. Quetzalcoatl Ixotel. We meet again. Looking at the water god Chalchutriqui who dared to fight him, Metis sneered and teased. I didn't expect you would dare to appear in front of me. It seems that I didn't teach you enough last time. Although I am also Quetzalcoatl, I am not Ixotel. Chalchutriqui explained with a solemn expression. I am Chalchutriqui, the water god's clone of Quetzalcoatl. I am not the same goddess as the Quetzalcoatl god Ixotel you met before. Then I will tell you once. If you don't want to suffer, just surrender to me. After saying that, Metis brandished the black magic gun and attacked. Just like the Mayan coalition collapsed in front of the Athenian soldiers. In the battle between the goddesses between Metis and Chalchutriquis, Metis suppressed Chalchutriquis from the beginning. After the Mayan coalition completely collapsed and fled, Chalchutriqui also fled from Metis in embarrassment, just like the Quetzalcoatl god Ixotel, who was defeated by Metis before. After defeating the Mayan coalition, Roy began to conquer various Mayan tribes in the northern Yucatan Peninsula. Before being defeated by the Athenian army, the Mayan leaders and nobles had the confidence to fight against the Athenians with force. After being defeated by the Athenian army, the Mayan leaders and nobles lost the means to fight the Athenians with force and were forced to surrender to the Athenian Empire. Because they chose to surrender, they were able to save their own lives and the lives of their families. If they choose to fight against the Athenian Empire to the end, they will lose everything including their lives. The northern part of the Yucatan Peninsula became the territory of the Athenian Empire. The Mayan tribes and villages in the northern area, and the leading nobles all lost their current power and wealth. This fact finally awakened the leading nobles in the central and southern Yucatan Peninsula. Let them realize that only by uniting, even if they united, they would not be able to defeat the Athenian Empire. Most importantly, they simply can't hold it together. Although the Mayan tribes in the southern Yucatan Peninsula were able to form a coalition under the convocation of the Palenque tribe, the Olmecs who worshipped Tezcatlipoca lived in the Mexican region to their north. The Mayans and the Olmecs have a centuries-old feud. So the Mayan coalition forces in the southern Yucatan Peninsula must always be prepared for Olmec attacks. Even if they are now aware of the threat posed by the Athenians, it is impossible for the Mayan tribes in the central Yucatan Peninsula and the Mayan tribes in the south to form a coalition to fight against the Athenian Empire. So when the northern region had been conquered by the Athenian Empire and the southern region was unable to provide help, The most powerful Chicana tribe in the central Yucatan Peninsula took the initiative to send envoys to express surrender to Loe. Temporary palace in Puerto Juarez. Roy personally received an emissary from the Chicana tribe. The messenger of the Chicana tribe. The daughter of the Chicana tribe chief and a priestess of Tlaloc. The rain god. Being both a tribal princess and a priestess is enough to prove the sincerity of the Chicana tribe's active surrender. Do you, the Chicana tribe, really want to surrender? Roy asked suspiciously. Even if your family surrenders voluntarily, you will lose your current power and wealth. The princess priest nodded with a smile and said, Your Majesty the Great Emperor. Not all leaders are selfish and sacrifice the lives of their people in order to preserve their power and wealth. In order to prevent our people from unnecessary sacrifices, our family is willing to give up the power to rule the Chicana tribe, and wealth will also call upon our vassal tribes to do the same. Some tribal leaders are selfish. Even if they know that they cannot fight against the Athenian Empire. Even if they know that the Athenian Empire will make their people live a better life. They still sacrifice their people for personal and family selfish interests. It is normal for some tribal leaders to be selfless and surrender voluntarily when they cannot defeat the Athenian Empire, and the Athenian Empire can make their tribesmen live a better life. It could be seen that the princess priest was not lying. Roy said with satisfaction. Since your family has such a good consciousness, I will certainly not treat you badly. I will arrange for your family to become first-class citizens of the Athenian Empire, so that you can continue to enjoy a life without worries about food and clothing. If your vassal tribes are willing to surrender, these the leader of the tribe will also become a third-class citizen, or a fourth-class citizen depending on the situation. Her family voluntarily surrendered, but was deprived of all power. The princess priest had an expression of obvious disappointment on her face. Then she said with a shy blush, Your Majesty the Great Emperor, I am not only a messenger to negotiate with you, but also a gift to you. Roy certainly understood the meaning behind sending a young and beautiful princess to the enemy's leader. Princess Chicana, I don't need you to be a gift because I already have a wife and my wife is pregnant. I don't want to betray my wife and hurt my wife and children at the same time. Chapter 602 The conditions that Quetzalcoatl must meet. After turning the central Yucatan Peninsula into the territory of the Athenian Empire, Roy did not wait to conquer the Maya in the southern Yucatan Peninsula. Because the basis of the Athenian Empire's rule and assimilation of the Mayans was to use advanced civilization and technology to improve the lives of the Mayans, so that the Mayans could identify with the Athenian Empire from the bottom of their hearts. So the first thing Roy had to do was to promote the system and civilization technology of the Athenian Empire in the central Yucatan Peninsula, and recruit Mayans to become soldiers of the Athenian Empire. 1596 BC. August. The Athenian Empire's islands of Haiti and Cuba experienced a bumper harvest of food crops. This not only provided the Athenian Empire with sufficient food to feed Athenian soldiers, but also deepened the Mayas' identification with the Athenian Empire. After all, the Athenian Empire has proven with facts that the Athenians' agricultural technology is more advanced. As long as the Mayans accepted the civilization and technology of the Athenian Empire, they no longer had to worry about food issues. After the harvest of crops within the territory of the Athenian Empire was completed, Roy immediately summoned 5,000 Athenian soldiers and 5,000 Mayan soldiers to prepare to incorporate the southern Yucatan Peninsula into the territory of the Athenian Empire. In order to avoid unnecessary sacrifices on both sides, Roy specially sent an envoy to negotiate with the most powerful Palenque tribe in the southern Yucatan Peninsula. The main enemies of the Palenque tribe were the Olmecs in Mexico, who worshipped Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder. If the Palenque tribe chooses to become an enemy of the Athenian Empire, the Palenque tribe will face enemies from both sides. So there is no doubt that the Palenque tribe accepts negotiations with Roy. Palenque tribe. Roy came here personally to negotiate with the leader of the Palenque tribe and the priest of Quetzalcoatl. Inside the stone palace of the Palenque chief, Roy said straight to the point. Chief Palenque. Under the rule of the Athenian Empire, the Mayans in the central and northern Yucatan Peninsula, as well as Haiti and Cuba, have all lived a better life than they do now. I hope you can do it for the sake of your people. For the sake of profit. Take the initiative to give up the power and wealth of the leader. As compensation for you, I will arrange for you to become a first-class citizen, so that you and your family can continue to live a life of food and clothing without worries. Both the Athenians and the Mayans worshipped the earth goddess ethnic group, proving that thousands of years ago, the Athenians and the Mayans had the same ancestors. It would certainly be better for the Mayans to be assimilated by the distant relatives of the Athenians than to be conquered and assimilated by the Olmecs, who worshipped Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder. Of course the leader of Palenque knew that all the Mayans in the Athenian Empire were living a better life than before. If they had a choice, the Mayans in the southern Yucatan Peninsula would also like to use iron farming tools to cultivate more fields and harvest more food. But the price? It was the chief nobles who ruled the Mayans who lost their current power and wealth. If I refuse, will you wage war on us? Of course. Roy nodded and said, if you leaders and nobles harm the interests of the tribe for your own personal gain, I will not only use war to take away your power and wealth, but also demote you to lifelong slaves as punishment. Faced with Roy's threat, the leader of Palenque gritted his teeth and said, can I make a request? As long as you Athenians can help us eliminate the Almecs, I will be willing to give up my power. And I will also call on the leaders of the vassal tribes to give up their power. The Almecs were certainly powerful enemies for the Mayans. If the Athenians could destroy the Almecs, the Palenque tribe would willingly submit to the Athenian Empire. If the Athenians and the Almecs both lost, or even lost to the Almecs, the Palenque tribe would naturally no longer need to submit to the Athenian Empire. Can? Roy said with a smile. Even if you don't make a request, our Athenian Empire will conquer the Almecs. Conquering the Almecs can earn your surrender, which is killing two birds with one stone for me. After reaching an agreement with the leader of Palenque, Roy looked at the priestess of the Quetzalcoatl god Icotel. This young priestess looks like a daughter of the Palenque tribe. In other words, she is also a princess priest. Priest of Quetzalcoatl. You don't look like a daughter accompanying your father. I'm here to negotiate with you, the priest of Quetzalcoatl said with a cold face. The great Quetzalcoatl, Iocotel, is the queen of the gods of the New World. If you can respect this fact, we, the priests of Quetzalcoatl, will call on all Mayans to submit to the Athenian Empire. The Athenian Empire conquered and assimilated the Mayans. And only the leader of the Mayans, the nobles and the Quetzalcoatl god Icotel, opposed it. Because of the arrival of the Athenian Empire, the chief nobles lost their power and wealth, and the Quetzalcoatl god Icotel lost his status as the king of the gods. If the Athenian Empire accepted the request of Quetzalcoatl, the leading nobles would completely lose their power to fight against the Athenian Empire. After all, this was the age of theocracy. Even the Quetzalcoatl god Icotel supported the Athenian Empire, and the leading nobles continued to act rebelliously, and would only be abandoned by ordinary Mayans. The area of the New World is 42 million square kilometers. In other words, the New World can have 4 queens of gods covering an area of tens of millions of square kilometers. The Canadian region had been assigned to Persephone by Lo, the overlord of the other world. The American region will become the territory of Metis. Of the remaining 20 million square kilometers, it is certainly possible to set aside part of it as the territory of the Quetzalcoatl god Icotel. I can make 5 million square kilometers of Central America the territory of Quetzalcoatl, the god of feathers. Seeing the priest of Quetzalcoatl's eyes widen in surprise, Roy continued. Of course this is conditional. My condition is that Quetzalcoatl, the god of Quetzalcoatl, must marry me. This is impossible. The priest of Quetzalcoatl immediately said angrily. The great Quetzalcoatl, Icotel, is a holy goddess and the eternal maiden god. No human man or male god can blaspheme the great Quetzalcoatl. Don't refuse so quickly. Roy teased with a smile. Whether you want to marry me or not, it should be decided by Icotel, the Quetzalcoatl. Slow guy. The priest of Quetzalcoatl said through gritted teeth. Haven't you seen it yet? I'm possessing my own priest. After saying that, the Quetzalcoatl god Icotel separated from the priest in the form of a human girl. Icotel? Roy asked in surprise as he looked at the Quetzalcoatl god Icotel in front of him. Did you personally refuse to marry me just now? That's right. Icotel nodded and said. Although I don't want to marry you, the 5 million square kilometers of Central America you mentioned becomes my domain and I'm happy with that. You don't want to marry me, but you also want to get the territory I promised you. Roy rolled his eyes and said. Not to mention a territory of 5 million square kilometers. It would be good if I could give you a territory of 50,000 square kilometers. If you want to own a territory of 5 million square kilometers, you must meet 2 conditions. Either marry me or she was the goddess who defeated the Athenian Empire that came to the New World. Chapter 603. In the end, I still have to get married. The essence of God worship is like ancestor worship. So asking an ethnic group to change their beliefs is like asking them to abandon their own ancestors and regard other people's ancestors as their own. The Athenian Empire was able to assimilate the Mayans not only because the Athenians brought advanced civilization and technology to the Mayans, allowing the Mayans to live a better life, but also because the Athenians did not change the beliefs of the Mayans and allowed them to taste the humiliation of abandoning one's own ancestors' gods and worshipping other people's ancestors' gods as one's own. Roy did not waver in Quetzalcoatl's identity as the patron saint of the Maya, all because he wanted to take care of the feelings of the Mayans. If Quetzalcoatl is unwilling to surrender, Roy does not mind suppressing and belittling Quetzalcoatl, or even completely annihilating Quetzalcoatl. After all, many of the goddesses in the Athenian Empire were clones of the ancient earth goddess, who had the same origin as Quetzalcoatl. Roy did not think that the Mayans could not accept the idea of letting the earth goddess of the Athenian Empire replace Quetzalcoatl in the worship of the Mayans. After looking at each other with Roy, Quetzalcoatl gritted his teeth and said, "I will defeat the goddess of the Athenian Empire and prove that I am worthy of becoming the queen of the gods of Mesoamerica. If you lose, will you surrender to the goddess of the Athenian Empire?" Ecotel shook his head and said, "If I lose, then I will marry you. I am the great Quetzalcoatl, and it is impossible for me to surrender to those goddesses who have the same origin as me. You would rather marry me than surrender to a distant relative." Roy showed a surprised expression, and then joked, "It seems that I will have one more wife, because there is no way you can defeat the goddess of the Athenian Empire. Do not underestimate me," Ecotel said angrily. "We all originate from the ancient earth goddesses. There is no reason for me to lose to them." "Then let's wait and see." Caribbean Sea. This is a sea of the Atlantic Ocean, located between the Greater and Lesser Antilles and the continents of North and South America. It is called the American Mediterranean. Most rivers in Central America flow into the Caribbean Sea. At this time, this place became the battlefield where Quetzalcoatl challenged Metis. The two goddesses stood on the flowing sea of the Caribbean Sea, and Metis said expressionlessly, "You are a wise earth goddess like me. I didn't expect you to challenge me again. Are you stupid enough to think that you can defeat me this time? Don't underestimate me," Ecotel said dissatisfied. "Of course I know the difference in strength between us. So I don't want to fight you as Ecotel, but as Quetzalcoatl. Ecotel is Quetzalcoatl, but Quetzalcoatl is not Ecotel." After arriving in the New World, Quetzalcoatl has split into several goddesses. Ecotel is Quetzalcoatl. The rain god Tlaloc is Quetzalcoatl, and the water god Chalchutriqui is also Quetzalcoatl. It is precisely because of the splitting of Quetzalcoatl that in the myths of another world, Quetzalcoatl appears in different myths in different regions. In Mayan mythology, the name of Quetzalcoatl is Icotel. In Aztec mythology, Quetzalcoatl's name is Quetzalcoatl. The Quetzalcoatl god worshipped by the Toltecs was named Kukulkan. In Inca mythology, Quetzalcoatl's name is Estujac. There are actually hundreds, if not thousands, of different myths about Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl has so many names because the Mayan tribes who worship Quetzalcoatl are widely distributed in the vast areas of southern North America and northern South America. Because the names of gods are not fixed, different tribes will give different names to Quetzalcoatl. The only thing in common is that these goddesses with different names are all Quetzalcoatl. My sisters, my clones. In order to preserve our honor as Quetzalcoatl, I ask you to become one with me. Along with the prayer of the Quetzalcoatl god Ecotel, black divine light flew from various regions in Central America and merged into Ecotel's body. Each ray of black divine light is a pillar of the goddess known as Quetzalcoatl. Even the rain god Tlaloc and the water god Chalchutriqui flew over and dedicated their powers to Ecotel. As Ecotel became the many-in-one Quetzalcoatl, her body also transformed into a gigantic figure 1,000 meters tall. "It's really good. Looking at the real Quetzalcoatl in front of him," Metis said with an excited smile. "As expected of the earth goddess, who has the same origin as me. This is the strength that the queen of the gods who dominates the new world should have. As long as I defeat you now, you will have nothing to say about your failure. It's too early to talk in sleep now." Quetzalcoatl summoned a black divine spear with an obsidian-like blade, and then took the initiative to attack Metis. In the face of Quetzalcoatl's true strength, "You, as a foreign god, will fail," Metis said while easily dodging Quetzalcoatl's attack while summoning the black divine spear. "Although it is good to have confidence, blind confidence is like stupidity. The difference in strength between you and me is just like the weapons we use. You are still using stone weapons, but I am already using iron weapons. Our strength is not at the same level at all." After saying this, Metis counterattacked Quetzalcoatl. There was a loud explosion. Metis' black divine spear collided with Quetzalcoatl's obsidian divine spear. And the blade of Quetzalcoatl's divine spear immediately shattered into stone fragments. Before Quetzalcoatl could recover from the shock, Metis used the black divine spear to split the body of Quetzalcoatl's divine spear in half. After destroying Quetzalcoatl's weapon, Metis put the blade of the black divine spear against Quetzalcoatl's neck. Quetzalcoatl naturally found it difficult to accept such an easy defeat to Metis. I lost to you entirely because of the difference in weapons. If I also had this kind of weapon, I would definitely not lose to you. The Athenians I protect have more advanced civilization technology and military power than the Mayans you protect. This is a reality you must face. Metis smiled confidently. If you are really unconvinced, I will accept your challenge at any time after the Mayans enter the Iron Age. Don't forget what you said today. Seeing that Quetzalcoatl had accepted defeat, Roy also said to her, Dear Quetzalcoatl, now issue an oracle to all the Mayan tribes who worship you and ask them to surrender to the Athenian Empire. As long as the Mayans surrender voluntarily, the Athenian Empire can speed up its expansion. Quetzalcoatl showed hatred in his eyes, turned his head to look to the north and said, As long as you help me destroy Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder, I will make the Mayans surrender to you. Roy said with a smile. My target is not just the Olmecs and Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder, but also the Aztecs and Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, the Nahuas and the moon goddess Coyosac, the Incas of South America, and the sun god Inti are all targets I want to conquer. Because most of the population of the New World is concentrated in Central America. As long as I conquer these Central American ethnic groups and gods, I can declare all the New World incorporated into the territory of the Athenian Empire. Chapter 604 Aztecs and Nahuas. The Athenian Empire's New World Expeditionary Army only numbered 10,000 people. This small amount of troops cannot even control the 520,000 square kilometers of Central America. Not to mention the huge area of 42 million square kilometers of the New World. But after the millions of Mayans became subjects of the Athenian Empire, the Athenian Empire could recruit at least 50,000 soldiers from the 100,000 young Mayans as the cornerstone of the Athenian Empire's expansion in the New World. 1596 BC. September. Roy led 30,000 Mayan soldiers equipped with iron weapons to attack the Olmecs in Mexico. The Olmecs, who worshipped Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder, were the true natives of the New World and the original overlords of Mesoamerica. After the Mayans, who worshipped Quetzalcoatl, came to the New World, they relied on the advanced civilization and technology of the Neolithic Age to carry out dimensionality reduction attacks on the Olmecs in the Paleolithic Age, and took away the throne of Mesoamerican hegemony. But the Olmecs did not accept defeat. And Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder, did not accept the fact that he lost to Quetzalcoatl. After learning Neolithic technology from the Mayans, the Olmecs began to actively counterattack the Mayans. Because both sides were in the Neolithic Age, the Mayans no longer had the advantage of advanced weapons. So the war between the Mayans and the Olmecs became mutually exclusive. This is exactly the realistic prototype of Quetzalcoatl in Aztec mythology, who defeated Tezcatlipoca 3 times, and was overthrown by Tezcatlipoca 3 times. In the end, the Aztecs moved from the north to the south and conquered the Olmecs, who were both at odds with the Mayans, ending the 1,000-year-old war between the Mayans and the Olmecs. Mexico region. After the Mayan soldiers of the Athenian Empire launched an invasion of the Olmec territory, the results were self-evident. The Olmec soldiers, who used stone and wooden spears, were vulnerable to the Mayan soldiers who used iron weapons. Like a torrent flooding a trough, the Mayan soldiers turned the Olmec territory into the territory of the Athenian Empire. Lake Tlacopan. Because of its precious water resources, this area has become an area where a large number of Olmec tribes live. In order to prevent the Mayan invasion, the Olmecs formed a coalition on the shores of Lake Tlacopan. Unfortunately, the Olmecs' numerical advantage could not resist the dimensionality reduction attack. The Battle of Tlacopan begins. The Olmec coalition, which had a numerical advantage, was still vulnerable to the Mayan soldiers. While the war between humans was going on, Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder worshipped by the Olmecs, also started a war of gods with Persephone. Tezcatlipoca's strength is even inferior to that of Quetzalcoatl. Facing Persephone, who was more powerful than Quetzalcoatl, Tezcatlipoca was killed by Persephone's scythe in the first round. The Mayan army of the Athenian Empire pushed forward and soon included all the Olmec territory into the territory of the Athenian Empire. After conquering the Olmecs, Loewy led the Maya army north to the Lake Texcoco area. Lake Texcoco means Moon Lake. The Nahua people living on the east side of Lake Texcoco are the people who worship the moon goddess Coyosac. The Aztecs, who worship the war god Huitzilopochtli, lived on the north side of Lake Texcoco. In the history of another world, the capital of the Aztec Empire and the capital of Mexico were built on the two islands in Lake Texcoco. The Aztecs were not native to the Valley of Mexico. Due to their warlike nature, they constantly harassed neighboring tribes, making their neighbors angry. So they joined forces to carry out a crusade. The result of the war was that the Aztecs were defeated. Most of them were captured, and a small number fled to the island. The captured Aztecs were taken to Culhuacan, a dynasty composed of Toltec descendants, and lived under the watchful eye of Culhuacan's chief, Coxcox. Later, his reputation soared due to his meritorious service in a battle at Culhuacan. Around 1325 AD, these Aztecs moved to live on a small island in Lake Texcoco and joined those who had fled here before. The island later developed into Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire and Mexico. In Aztec mythology, they depicted themselves as victims. As the Aztecs moved south, they were not welcomed by the people in the areas along their route. Sometimes they can only work for local people as cheap labor, serfs or slaves. After crossing a long area and experiencing several tribal conflicts, the Nahua people, who worshipped the moon goddess, finally agreed to take them in. However, they only gave the Aztecs a very poor land, covered with volcanic rocks and filled with deadly snakes and scorpions. Instead, the Aztecs preyed on all the snakes and scorpions on the ground and lived there tenaciously. The natives finally saw their bravery and agreed to take them in as mercenaries. At this time, Huitzilopochtli asked them not to listen to the mercy of others and to rise up and resist. They finally killed the chief's daughter and held the first new fire ceremony in the migration, using a fire sacrifice to sacrifice the chief's daughter to Huitzilopochtli, the god of war and hunting. The angry chief led his troops and drove the Aztecs out and rushed them to a small island in the lake. Just when the Aztecs were about to despair, perhaps they finally passed the test of Huitzilopochtli, they saw an eagle perched on a cactus with a snake under its talons. The eagle kept screaming and bit the snake under its claws to pieces. This was the revelation of Huitzilopochtli. The gods instructed them that they should thrive here, conquer all other tribes, and establish a powerful empire of their own. In the myth of Huitzilopochtli, his birth is also accompanied by his death. Legend has it that a Nahua tribe lived south of the Sierra Madre Oriental. The female chief of the tribe is the earth goddess Quetzalcoatl. She first gave birth to her eldest daughter, the moon goddess Coyosac, and later vowed to abide by chastity. However, one day, a ball made of feathers suddenly fell from the sky and fell into the arms of Quetzalcoatl, and then disappeared with a pop. Quetzalcoatl thus became pregnant with Huitzilopochtli. The moon goddess Coyosac was very angry when she learned that her mother was pregnant. She believed that her mother had violated her oath and decided to kill her. When Coyosac was about to take action, Huitzilopochtli jumped out of his mother's belly and landed fully armed and already an adult. Armed with Xicvatl, the sword of the fire serpent, he first cut off Coyosac's limbs and threw him off the top of the mountain. Then he cut off her head and threw it into the sky, where it turned into the moon. The migration myth of the Aztecs is exactly the same as the birth myth of Huitzilopochtli. The Nahuas accepted the Aztecs who came south, corresponding to Huitzilopochtli becoming the child of Quetzalcoatl. The Aztecs' killing of the chief's daughter corresponds to Huitzilopochtli's killing of the moon goddess Coyosac, the daughter of the chief Quetzalcoatl. In other words, the Aztecs' killing of the chief's daughter was the real prototype of Huitzilopochtli's killing of the moon goddess Coyosac. Chapter 605, Quota for the 12 Queens of the Gods. In Aztec mythology, the moon goddess Coyosac was twice killed and dismembered by the sun god Huitzilopochtli. The relationship between the Aztecs, who worshipped Huitzilopochtli, and the Nahuas, who worshipped the moon goddess Coyosac, is like the relationship between Huitzilopochtli and the moon goddess Coyosac. To be precise, it is precisely because of the real-life hostile relationship between the Aztecs and the Nahuas that there is a myth that the moon goddess Coyosac was killed twice and dismembered by Huitzilopochtli. Huitzilopochtli, who incarnates as a hummingbird and an eagle, was originally the god of hunting and war, and eventually became the supreme sun god after the establishment of the Aztec Empire. In terms of origin, Huitzilopochtli, a male god and sky god, is a god worshipped by the natives of the New World. Just like Tezcatlipoca, the thunder god worshipped by the Olmecs, Quetzalcoatl, who is both a goddess and the god of the earth, is fundamentally different from these male gods and sky gods. So Quetzalcoatl and the Mayans are outsiders who migrated from the old world. But it seems that Coyosac, the moon goddess who became the mortal enemy of Huitzilopochtli, cannot simply be regarded as the avatar of Quetzalcoatl, the goddess of the earth. In the history of another world, around the 5th century AD, the Nahua people's territory had the prosperous ancient city of Teotihuacan. This city, known as the City of the Gods, not only built the Pyramid of the Sun, the Temple of the Quetzalcoatl, and the Avenue of Death running from north to south, but also built the Pyramid of the Moon. The existence of the Pyramid of the Moon is enough to prove that the moon goddess played an important role in Mesoamerica. Even Lake Texcoco, the mother lake that gave birth to the ancient city of Teotihuacan and the capital of the Aztec Empire, was named Moon Lake. The moon goddess Coyosac cannot be regarded as the avatar of Quetzalcoatl, not only because of the huge authority of the moon goddess, but also because the moon goddess Coyosac is essentially different from Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl is the goddess of the earth, and the goddess of the moon is the goddess of the sky. The worship of Quetzalcoatl, the goddess of the earth, is a kind of nature worship. The worship of the moon goddess is the worship of the stars in the night sky. In many ways, the moon goddess Coyosac has a completely different nature from Quetzalcoatl. Moreover, the Aborigines of the New World originally had strong sun worship. It is precisely because the Aborigines of the New World had strong sun worship that Quetzalcoatl was influenced to become the sun god. Sun worship and moon worship are always inseparable. Since the Aboriginal people of the New World originally worshipped the sun, it is normal for the New World to have the moon goddess Coyosac. In Aztec mythology, the earth goddess was the mother of Coyosac. The moon goddess, perhaps the Mayans, who worshipped Quetzalcoatl, accepted the Nahua people who also worshipped the goddess, and assimilated the Nahua people. The Aztecs also accepted the assimilation of the Maya. So Huitzilopochtli, whom the Aztecs worshipped, also became the son of the earth goddess. Roy led the Mayan army to the Nahua territory east of Lake Texcoco, and no war broke out between the two sides. Just like the moon goddess Coyosac is the daughter of Quetzalcoatl and the earth goddess, the Nahuas are now also a vassal group of the Maya. Even the Mayans have surrendered to the Athenian Empire, so the Nahuas will naturally not be crazy enough to challenge the Athenian Empire. The territory of the Nahuas entered the territory of the Athenian Empire, and Roy continued to lead the Maya army to the north. Aztec territory. Roy came here with the Mayan army, and a war inevitably broke out between the two sides. After all, the Aztecs were different from the Nahuas who were assimilated by the Mayans. In the myth of another world, the Nahuas accepted the migrating Aztecs. Instead of being grateful for the kindness of the Nahuas, the Aztecs attacked the Nahuas and sacrificed the daughter of the Nahua chief to Huitzilopo as a fire sacrifice. Kaitri, such a barbaric and ungrateful ethnic group, must be completely wiped out. East of the Sierra Madre Occidental, a lakeside here became a battlefield between the Mayan army and the Aztec army. In order to help the Aztecs defeat the Mayan army, Huitzilopochtli, the god of hunting and war, took the initiative to come to the battlefield. Just when Roy was about to fight Huitzilopochtli himself, a familiar female voice suddenly said, "Leave him to me." The next moment, the goddess Hera descended on the battlefield with a huge figure of 1,000 meters tall, and then summoned a huge black divine spear to strike at Huitzilopochtli. Even during the Aztec Empire 3,000 years later, Huitzilopochtli, who was regarded as the king of the gods by the Aztec Empire, would not be able to defeat the current goddess Hera. 3,000 years ago now, Huitzilopochtli was just a tribal god worshipped by the Aztecs. So under Hera's full attack, Huitzilopochtli was completely wiped out by Hera with just one blow. After seeing Huitzilopochtli being wiped out, Hera stood silently on the battlefield. And Roy said with a guilty conscience, "Dear Sister Hera, why you appeared in the New World? Don't you want to see me show up?" Hera turned around, looked at Roy with eyes so sad that she was about to cry and said, "I thought there would be a place for me in the New World. So I have been waiting for you to invite me. But I waited and waited, and never got your invitation. So I came on my own. If there is no place for me in the New World, I'm leaving here now." Looking at Hera Chuchu's pitiful look, Roy hurriedly explained, "Of course there will be a place for Sister Hera in the New World. I didn't invite you before, just because I haven't conquered Central America yet. And I don't want to make a promise to you in advance. Now that Sister Hera is here, I promise the new world will have 10 million square kilometers of territory belonging to you. Hearing Roy's words, Hera immediately burst into tears and smiled. She turned into a human girl and threw herself into Roy's arms. She hugged Roy's neck tightly with her hands and rubbed Roy's cheek with her cheek. I knew you must love me. A forced smile appeared on Roy's face. But he did not deny Hera's thoughts. The world's land area is approximately 150 million square kilometers. In Roy's plan, the Athenian Empire would have an area of 100 million square kilometers. In addition to Quetzalcoatl, whose territory covers an area of 5 million square kilometers. The Athenian Empire also has 11 queens of the gods whose territories exceed 5 million square kilometers. After Alina, Metis, and Persephone occupied 3 spots, there were 8 spots left. Let Hera get a place, which is a natural result. Selene, Aphrodite, Mnemosyne and Amphitrite will also occupy the remaining 7 spots. Inanna and Sekhmet can get 2 of the remaining 3 places. The final quota. Roy hasn't made up his mind yet. Perhaps the last spots can be reserved for Procne and Philomela after they become goddesses. Since Roy, who was originally a human, can ascend to the throne of the king of gods after becoming a god, then Procne and Philomela can of course be equal to the goddesses and become the new queens of the gods. Chapter 606 The patron saint worshipped by the Incas. The First Solar Age. Before 1500 BC. The Olmecs were the overlords of Mesoamerica. And Tezcatlipoca, the god of thunder worshipped by the Olmecs, was the king of the gods in Mesoamerica. Second Solar Era. After 1500 BC, the Mayans began to become the overlords of Mesoamerica. And Quetzalcoatl, worshipped by the Mayans, became the king of the gods in Mesoamerica. During the third and fourth solar periods, the Mayans and the Olmecs fought a war that lasted for thousands of years. The existence of the Isthmus of Panama prevented the Mayans from facing threats from the south. The Olmecs, however, had to compete with the tribes from the north and south for living space. So Quetzalcoatl eventually won the Battle of Gods with Tezcatlipoca. The Fifth Solar Era. After 1400 AD, the Aztecs established the Aztec Empire to dominate Central America. And Huitzilopochtli, whom the Aztecs worshipped, became the king of the gods. While the historical evolution of the 5 suns was going on in the northern part of the Isthmus of Panama, new civilizations were also being nurtured in northern South America, in the southern part of the Isthmus of Panama. South America has been inhabited since 800 BC. From 2000 BC to 1000 BC, it entered the agricultural era, and a series of brilliant human civilizations emerged. In the 10th century AD, the Inca tribe, led by Manco Capac, the first Inca king, began to migrate northward and occupied the area of present-day Cusco, Peru in 1243. The fifth Inca king declared his capital here. After more than 3 centuries of expansion, the Inca Empire became the largest empire in the entire Americas. It is now 1596 BC, 2,600 years before the rise of the Incas. At this time, the Incas were just a small tribe worshipping the sun god Inti. Inca mythology from another world worships the 4 sons and 4 daughters of the sun god as the ancestors of the Incas. Inca means descendants of the sun. Icona, who is honest and has the air of an elder, is the eldest son of the sun god. Calibia, who is philanthropic and kind, and nurtures all living beings like a mother, is the eldest daughter of the sun god. Bokov, the god of shepherd, is the second son, responsible for the life and death of birds and animals, breeding, hunting and husbandry. Chulasotet, the goddess of love, is the second daughter, responsible for love and reproduction. Omatu Chitli, the god of wine, is the third son, responsible for weddings, funerals, sacrifices and celebrations. The wind god Astuyak is the third daughter, responsible for the prosperity and decline of flowers and trees, and the singing of music. The god of war, Vitchup Chitli, is the fourth son, responsible for the affairs of enmity, killing, and conquest. Tlaloc, the rain god, is the fourth daughter, responsible for accelerating germination and releasing buds, and bathing in rain, dew, frost and snow. These 8 gods are brothers and sisters, as well as 4 couples. It is obvious that Tlaloc, the rain god, was the queen of the gods of Mesoamerica during the Third Sun Age. Huitzilopochtli, the war god worshipped by the Aztecs. The wind god Estuac and the earth goddess Calibia are also the identities of the earth goddess Quetzalcoatl in Inca mythology. In order to exalt the sun god Inti, the Incas reduced the powerful gods of the north to the children of the sun god Inti. This can also prove that the Incas, who claimed to be the descendants of the sun god, originally regarded the sun god as their patron saint. In later Inca mythology, Viracocha became the king of the gods in Inca mythology. But Viracocha's identity is likely to be that of a deified human being. Among the existing legends and deeds about Viracocha, the most critical one is his dealings with the Chanca people. However, there are completely different versions of the legends in this regard. One version is that the Chanca people became active in the early years of Viracocha's reign. They first occupied Antahuaylla in the Inca Empire. Later, in the later years of Viracocha, the Chanca people invaded the Inca Empire. Viracocha did not resist and abandoned the capital and fled with the crown prince. Just as the capital was facing disaster, another prince of Viracocha, Pachacutec, led the troops in time to defeat the enemy, annihilated the Chanca generals, deposed Viracocha, and proclaimed himself king. Review of the Inca royal family records another completely opposite statement, saying that during his exile, Viracocha reported the god's dreams to his father, Yawarhuacac, and gave advice, but was not received. Except when the rebels led by the Chanca people came to Cusco. Yawarhuacac abandoned the city and fled, while Viracocha gathered soldiers and civilians to defend the capital, and finally defeated the rebels and surrendered. After that, Viracocha was deeply recognized for his meritorious service in defending the country. So he deposed his father and established himself as king. Review of the Inca royal family also mentioned that Viracocha's rule was generally smooth, saying that he had built a temple to worship the god of Viracocha, expanded his territory, and built canals to irrigate his pastures. He toured the country and gained great popularity until his death, when he was succeeded by Crown Prince Pachacutec. The fact that the Incas claimed to be the descendants of the sun god, rather than the descendants of Viracocha, is enough to prove that Viracocha was not the original god of the Incas. Moreover, the image of Viracocha is even of a different race from the Aborigines of the New World. In one legend, Viracocha was a tall white man with an awe-inspiring look and appearance. Another described him as a dignified-looking white man with blue eyes and a beard, hatless and wearing a knee-length sleeveless top. Similar descriptions of this enigmatic figure have been collected from almost all the different peoples of the Andes. The Incas of the 16th century also considered Viracocha to be Caucasian, because their legends and religious beliefs convinced them that in 1553, when the white-skinned and thick-bearded Spaniards landed on their beach, they initially thought it was Viracocha with his demigods. Men are back. The New World only entered the Bronze Civilization around the 11th century AD, and it was centered around the Inca Empire. Viracocha was probably a Caucasian from the Old World who came to the New World from the Old World by accident. Because the Old World was already in the late Iron Age, Viracocha was worshipped as a god by the Inca people just by guiding them into the Bronze Age. After Roy conquered the Aztecs, he returned to the Yucatan Peninsula and led a Mayan army of 10,000 people south to South America. 1596 BC. October. Puerto Juarez, the temporary palace of the Athenian Empire. When Roy conquered the Inca people in northern South America and eliminated the sun god Inti, the world also ushered in a special life. Philomela's chamber. Under the care of a group of palace maids, Philomela gave birth to a daughter. Orinoco Plain in the eastern Andes. Roy personally fought against Inti, the sun god who protected the Inca tribe, after destroying Inti by crushing ants with an elephant. A special feeling made Roy look to the north involuntarily. This strange and special feeling made Roy instinctively understand that there was someone in the world who was connected to him by blood. Philomela gave birth to my child. Looking up at the sun in the sky, Roy couldn't help but smile. The sun that shines on the new world is born. This child's name is Icarus. Loi's god's name is Phaethon, the one-day sun god who caused his own destruction because of his reckless driving of the sun chariot. Icarus also drowned in the sea because of his reckless approach to the sun, which caused the high temperature of the sun to melt the wax on his wings. Of course the sun god Phaethon, who recklessly drove the sun chariot, should have a daughter who recklessly approached the sun and caused her own destruction. Chapter 607 The child's name Icarus. Yucatan Peninsula. Temporary palace in Puerto Juarez. Philomela's chamber. Sensing the child's birth, Roy returned here as quickly as possible. When Roy walked into Philomela's bedroom, he saw Philomela lying on the bed with a weak and pale face. In her arms was a child whose body was blooming with divine light. When the 6 palace maids serving Philomela saw Roy, they bowed their heads and saluted him. At this time, Roy only had Philomela and the child in his eyes. Ignoring the palace maid and walking up to Philomela, Roy stretched out his trembling hands to hug the child, but was worried that he would accidentally hurt the child. So his hands stopped beside the child. "Brother Roy, you came back so quickly." Philomela showed a gentle and sweet smile and took the initiative to put the child in Roy's hands. "This is our newborn daughter. She must also want to be held in her father's arms." The little body that could barely feel the weight fell on Roy's hand, and Roy's body stiffened instantly. Looking at his daughter Icarus' cute little face and bright eyes, Roy's eyes shed 2 lines of tears unconsciously. "This is my child." Plop. Roy knelt down on his knees towards Philomela and said with a bright smile with tears on his face, "Philomela, you are truly my goddess, who gave birth to the miracle of life for me. Now I understand somewhat how pious humans in ancient times worshipped the ancient earth goddess." "Brother Roy." Looking at Roy's appearance, Philomela said in surprise, "This is the first time I've seen you cry like this. Even though they are tears of joy. I never thought that the birth of this child would move me to tears." Carefully holding his daughter in his arms, Roy then asked, "I have already decided on a name for my daughter. What do you think of the name Icarus?" "Icarus, does it mean yearning for the sky? I am the sun god who rules the sky. Of course my daughter should also yearn for the sky where I am," Roy said, holding Icarus high in the air with both hands. "Icarus, as my daughter, this child will become the sun shining on the new world." "Brother Roy, do you want Icarus to rule the new world?" "This is a natural result." Roy nodded and said, "I have no preference for sons over daughters. To me, daughters and sons have the same inheritance rights." Then, Roy said to Philomela, "Philomela, all the native groups and local gods in the New World who can resist the Athenian Empire have been eliminated by me. Next, we will need to spend decades, or even hundreds of years to destroy the 42 million square kilometers of the New World area to rule effectively. For the sake of our daughter Icarus, can I leave this matter to you?" Philomela nodded without hesitation and said, "For the happiness of Icarus, I will do my best to conquer every land in the New World. Mother's love is so great." Roy put Icarus in Philomela's arms and smiled. "I believe you will be able to accomplish the great feat of conquering the entire New World. After all, this is not for my husband, but for the daughter who continues your life." Although the emotion of becoming a father for the first time made Roy temporarily lose himself. But Roy has calmed down now. Because Loe was not only the father of Icarus, but also the emperor of the Athenian Empire, the sun god who ruled over the Athenian gods. So Roy has no intention of stopping his progress for the sake of Icarus. Icarus, who returned to Philomela's arms, stretched out his little hand towards Roy, and his bright and pure black eyes looked at Roy with longing eyes. As a demigod born to Roy and Philomela, Icarus was born with divinity and power. So he was naturally different from ordinary children. Looking at his daughter's little hand reaching out to him, Roy didn't know whether she instinctively longed for him as a father, or whether she was born with wisdom. After just a moment's hesitation, Roy put his right index finger into Icarus' palm. After Icarus' little hand tightly grasped Roy's index finger, Roy smiled helplessly. "Icarus, if you like me so much, then I will do it for you." Although Roy had decided just now that he would not stop moving forward for the sake of his daughter. But in fact, Roy obviously couldn't refuse his daughter's desire. A blink of an eye. The time comes to 1595 BC. August. Loe stayed in Puerto Juarez for 10 months to take care of Philomela and Icarus. Temporary palace in Puerto Juarez. The palace courtyard in full bloom. 10-month-old Icarus is now not only able to run, but can also hold simple conversations. Surrounded by a group of palace maids, Icarus was playing in the flowers and meadows. In the pavilion in the courtyard, Philomela lay in Roy's arms, looking at the figure of Icarus. Her face showed a look she had never seen before. Even when she and Procne were inseparable in the past, Philomela never showed such a happy smile. Roy asked curiously, "Philomela, do you miss Procne now?" Philomela was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and said, "Icarus has filled my heart. If Brother Roy hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have thought of my sister at all." That's good. Roy said happily. I'm already planning to leave the new world. Icarus can fill your heart. And you won't be too sad to be separated from me. Brother Roy. Hearing Roy's words, Philomela looked up at Roy and said unbearably. I didn't say that Icarus can replace your place in my heart. Even if you don't consider my feelings. You must also consider Icarus, she needs her father's company to grow up. Philomela. Since I am not a dedicated and good husband, how can I be a good father? I have stayed with you mother and daughter long enough. Now you can raise Icarus alone. After saying that, Roy's figure suddenly disappeared. Brother Roy. Philomela stretched out her hand to grab Roy. But missed. Tick 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 tick. Just when Philomela couldn't help crying, Icarus came to Philomela with the palace maid who took care of her and asked. Mother. Why are you crying? Where is father? Philomela excitedly held Icarus in her arms and said while suppressing her tears. Icarus. I will give you fatherly and motherly love at the same time. And use double the love to make you happy forever. City of Athens. Royal Palace of Athens. Standing on the tallest building in the palace and looking at the distant west, Procne said with a complicated expression. It's been 2 years since Philomela and I were separated. People who went to the New World brought back news that Philomela had given birth to a daughter named Icarus with brother Roy. And they didn't know that she was now how have you been? She is no longer your sister. But Icarus's mother. Roy's voice sounded behind Procne. As a mother, Philomela now loves her daughter wholeheartedly and no longer feels sad about being separated from you. Chapter 608 The Three Major Gods of Yamato Islands. Brother Roy. Hearing the familiar voice, Procne turned around in surprise. Seeing Roy actually appearing in front of him, Procne said in disbelief. Am I dreaming? This is reality. Roy said with a smile. Procne. I'm back. After speaking, Roy opened his hands to Procne. Procne immediately burst into tears and threw herself into Roy's arms. Seeing Procne burst into tears and soon wetting his clothes with uncontrollable tears, Roy said guiltily. I'm sorry. I should have come back to you sooner. Procne shook her head and said. Philomela and her children need brother Roy more. And brother Roy should stay with them. Silly girl. Don't you want to be a mother and have your child? Procne immediately fell silent. As she grew older, Procne saw many girls of similar age she knew becoming mothers. And of course she also had the idea of becoming a mother. Roy picked up Procne in a princess hug and said. We have been separated for so long. Let me make it up to you. I will stay with you day and night until you have a child. Brother Roy. Procne said in disbelief. You will really stay with me? Of course. Being by your side will not affect my ability to run the war machine of the Athenian Empire. A blink of an eye. Time enters 1594 BC. March. Roy stayed in Athens for half a year. For the past 6 months, Roy had been with Procne every day and every night. The Indian Ocean Fleet of the Athenian Empire also made an expedition to the east under Roy's command. Thanks to Loe's diligent work, Procne is now 6 months pregnant, as evidenced by her visibly bulging belly. Roy also had the idea of leaving the city of Athens after the expedition fleet stopped advancing. Royal Palace of Athens. After a happy afternoon with Procne, Roy spoke his mind over dinner. Procne, who is considerate, will naturally not retain Roy. Late at night, Procne burst into tears in her sleep. Roy wiped away the tears on her face and then quietly disappeared from the palace. The Far East. Honshu Island. A temple built for Loe by the Athenian navy during its expedition to the east. It was still night in the city of Athens. But it was already daytime, with the sun shining brightly here. Roy teleported to the sky above the temple, thinking he was on a peninsula on the mainland of China. After flying tens of thousands of meters into the sky and looking down at the ground, Roy realized that he was on Honshu Island. The purpose of Loe ordering the Athenian navy to expedition to the east was to make the Athenian navy the vanguard for his conquest of the Chinese mainland. Unexpectedly, the expedition fleet rushed over and came to occupy a corner of the Yamato Islands in the east. The Yamato Islands are located on the west coast of the Pacific Ocean. They are an arc-shaped island country extending from northeast to southwest. They include 4 large islands: Hokkaido, Honshu, Shikoku, and Kyushu, and more than 6,800 other small islands, with a total area of 378,000 square kilometers. The confirmed human history on the Yamato Islands dates back to about 30,000 to 100,000 years ago. About 12,000 years ago, rapid warming began due to the end of the last glacial period, which caused great changes in people's culture and life. And the entire island entered the next Jomon period. At this time, people made Jomon-style pottery and became settled after the early period. Most of them lived in semi-burrowed houses. They used bows and arrows for hunting, mound fishing, and plant collection to make a living. They also used broken stone tools, ground stone tools, bone and horn tools, etc., and began to plant rice in the later period. The Jomon period of the Yamato Islands officially ended in 300 BC. And the Paleolithic Age began to enter the Neolithic Age. It is now 1594 BC. And there are still 1,300 years before the Yamato Islands enter the Neolithic Age. In other words, the current Yamato Islands are in the Paleolithic Age. The Athenians with their iron civilization came to the Yamato Islands in the Paleolithic Age. Not to mention conquering the Yamato Islands with dimensionality reduction strikes. It is not surprising that they were regarded as gods by the indigenous people with backward civilization. In another world, the Yamato mythology is so intricate that there are even claims of 8 million gods. But tracing back to the origins, the sun god Amaterasu, the moon god Tsukuyomi, and the sea god Susanoo are undoubtedly the three highest status gods. Amaterasu, the sun god, represents sun worship. In ancient times, sun worship was common all over the world. And the sun god was worshipped as the supreme god. It is normal for the Yamato Islands to worship the sun god. The only special point is that the sun god Amaterasu of the Yamato Islands is a goddess. Perhaps the Aborigines of the Yamato Islands have retained the goddess worship from the matrilineal clan era. Perhaps the sun god Amaterasu is also the clone of the ancient earth goddess, who evolved into the sun goddess on the Yamato Islands in order to meet human needs. Although the moon god Tsukuyomi is one of the three noble sons along with the sun god Amaterasu and the Poseidon Susanoo, and is one of the three highest status gods in the Yamato Islands. The moon god Tsukuyomi itself does not have strong authority. Like most moon gods in the world, they exist as vassals of the sun god. Unlike Amaterasu's clear identity as the sun goddess, Tsukuyomi's gender is not determined and can be male or female. There are theories that they are the twin goddesses of Amaterasu. And there are also theories that they are male gods. The Yamato Islands are surrounded by the sea. And fishing is an important source of food for fishermen along the coast of the Yamato Islands, which established Susanoo's status. Later, as time evolved, Susanoo broke away from his identity as a sea god and evolved into a ferocious god of war. Although in mythology, the sun god Amaterasu, the moon god Tsukuyomi, and the sea god Susanoo are three siblings, the reality is not a myth. In reality, only the sun goddess Amaterasu and the moon goddess Tsukuyomi are worshipped as twin sisters. Susanoo, the god of the sea, has nothing to do with the sun goddess Amaterasu and the moon goddess Tsukuyomi. So in the myth of the sun god Amaterasu and the sea god Susanoo, Susanoo left the sea and came to Amaterasu's territory. And Amaterasu immediately armed himself and prepared to fight. Susanoo stayed in Takamagahara and refused to leave. So Amaterasu stayed in Amamado. It wasn't until Susanoo left that Amaterasu walked out of Ama Iwado. This myth corresponds to the real prototype. Apparently the coastal groups who worshipped Susanoo went deep inland and robbed the inland residents of the Amaterasu worshipping group of food and women. So in this myth, Amaterasu and Susanoo had 8 children. 3 girls, 5 boys. The myth that Susanoo killed Yamata no Orokai and obtained the Amazusa cloud sword and the stranger Nadaheim is also related to Amaterasu, which seems to prove that Amaterasu is also an earth goddess in the form of a snake. In the myth of Amaterasu and Susanoo, Amaterasu and Susanoo had 8 children. In the myth of Susanoo and Yamata no Orokai, Nadaheim is the 8th daughter of her parents. And Yamata no Orokai is a snake demon with 8 heads and 8 tails. 8 the number that links Amaterasu to Yamata no Orokai and Nadaheim. In the long history, the coastal groups who worshipped Susanoo must have waged many wars against the inland residents to seize food and women in order to survive. Amaterasu, the sun goddess, is the patron saint of the people living in the interior. The Yamata no Orokai, with its 8 heads and 8 tails, is a debased image of Amaterasu. The 8 nude Nadaheim married to Susanoo. The name rice field symbolizes food. The name G symbolizes women. Amaterasu, who had 3 women and 5 men with Susanoo, was the same Kiradahime who married Susanoo. Chapter 609, If Gong doesn't give up. He is willing to be his adoptive father. The purpose of Roy's expedition to the east was to return to his hometown. After confirming that he had arrived at the Yamato Islands in the east of his hometown, Roy prepared to use teleportation to head to the stronghold established by the Athenian Expeditionary Force in the coastal areas of the Chinese mainland. At this time, Roy saw a group of small natives pouring from all directions towards the stronghold of the Athenian Expeditionary Force. The weapons used by these aborigines in the Paleolithic age were basically wooden spears and sticks. Even if their number was 10 or 100 times greater than that of the Athenian soldiers, Roy was not worried that these natives could defeat the Athenian soldiers. But behind these aborigines, there followed a sea god dressed as a fisherman and holding a harpoon. This 100-meter-tall Poseidon walked towards the stronghold of the Athenian Expeditionary Force with huge steps, his face showing the bloodthirsty fury of the god of war. Roy descended from the sky and stood in front of the Poseidon, saying in a cold voice with no expression on his face, "Are you Susanoo? Are you the god of the invaders?" Susanoo pointed the harpoon at Roy contemptuously and ordered, "Since you know my uncle's divine name, then quickly take your people and leave my territory." Yamato Islands are surrounded by sea. As a sea god worshipped in coastal areas, Susanoo can rise to become one of the most powerful gods in the Yamato Islands, and even compete with the sun goddess Amaterasu for the throne of the supreme god. It is actually an inevitable result, because it is difficult to breed advanced civilization within the Yamato Islands. When advanced civilizations from other regions spread, they will first be absorbed by the coastal areas of the Yamato Islands. Every time foreign civilization spreads to the Yamato Islands, the coastal areas will temporarily lead the inland areas. When the inland areas absorb advanced civilization, they will rely on more populations to suppress the coastal areas. In the history of another world, the 4 powerful vassals that overthrew the Tokugawa shogunate all belonged to coastal areas, because coastal areas were more likely to absorb advanced civilization than inland areas. Looking at the ignorant and arrogant Susanoo, Roy said with a joking smile, "Susanoo, you are the god of sea, wind and war in the Yamato Islands, and perhaps the god of harvest that allows fishermen to harvest. Although the sun goddess Amaterasu is known as the queen of the gods inland, you are also the king of the coastal areas. You must feel that you are one of the most powerful gods in the world. Even if the sun goddess Amaterasu comes from the inland to the coast, she will become your defeat. But now, I want to give you a little shock. Let you know that to the whole world, you are as small and humble as the Yamato Islands." After speaking, Roy raised his right hand to release his divine power, using the fire of the sun to create a huge fireball with a diameter of 1 kilometer. "You are also the sun god." As an old rival of the sun goddess Amaterasu, Susanoo recognized Roy's flames immediately, as Roy threw the huge fireball at Susanoo. Even though Susanoo was the god of the sea, his body could not bear the burning of the sun's fire. In order to avoid being burned to ashes by Roy's solar fire, Susanoo directly left the land and jumped into the sea, using the endless sea water to extinguish the solar fire on his body. "It's really troublesome." Seeing Susanoo hiding in the sea, Roy frowned and said, "It seems that I am going to use the hostile relationship between you and Amaterasu, the coastal and inland groups of the Yamato Islands, to completely eliminate you. After all, I am not interested in wasting too much time on you now." Just when Roy was about to head to the interior of Honshu Island, Susanoo suddenly appeared from the sea and said, "Powerful foreign god, I am willing to surrender to you, as long as your people hand over advanced civilization technology to my people so that I can become stronger. I am even willing to worship you as my father. You want to be my son? If you don't give up, sir, Susanoo is willing to be your adoptive father." Looking at Susanoo kneeling before him, Roy couldn't help but think of Lu Fengxian. Because the Yamato archipelago cannot breed its own advanced civilization, the Yamato archipelago does not exclude advanced foreign civilization. When the civilization of the Western China continent becomes advanced, the Yamato Islands will actively learn from the China continent. When the new continent in the east becomes the world's hegemon, the Yamato Islands will also be willing to serve the new continent as their father. He really looks like Lu Fengxian. "I'm not interested in cheap sons who are not related by blood," Roy said expressionlessly. "From the moment you became my enemy, I have decided to destroy you." After saying that, Roy flew directly to the interior of the Yamato Islands. Mount Fuji. This is Takamagahara in Yamato mythology. Because the Yamato kingdom established by the emperor, who claimed to be a descendant of Amaterasu, was located in Yamato Prefecture east of Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is the highest peak in the Yamato Islands, and one of the largest active volcanoes in the world. This place became Takamagahara, the residence of the sun goddess Amaterasu. Perhaps because the people who worshipped the sun goddess Amaterasu once witnessed the eruption of Mount Fuji volcano and mistakenly believed that the sun lived in the volcano. The Germanic people in the Germanic region also lived near active volcanoes. So they mistakenly thought that the sun goddess sooner lived in the volcano, the land of fire. Muspelheim. Who are you? When Roy flew over Mount Fuji, two goddesses with very similar faces, like twins, stood in front of Roy. Seeing these two goddesses, one is the sun goddess blooming with sunlight, and the other is the moon goddess blooming with cold moonlight. Roy said with a smile, "It seems that you two sisters are Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi. I am the new master of the Yamato Islands, the sun god Phaethon who rules the entire world." After saying that, Roy bloomed with his own divine light. As if the dazzling light covering the entire Yamato Islands burst out from Roy. Amaterasu said with wide eyes in shock, "You are also the sun god." Amaterasu. Tsukuyomi. If you want to continue to survive in the Yamato Islands and become the mistress of the Yamato Islands, then accept my order and destroy all the gods in the Yamato Islands. The sea god Susanoo is the first one you must destroy. An enemy. As long as you accept my arrangement, I will let my people educate your people, so that you will have more powerful power and divine power. Let us surrender to you. Although there is no doubt that Roy is powerful, this does not mean that Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi are willing to surrender to Roy. After all, without Roy, Amaterasu could have become the queen of the gods of the Yamato Islands on her own. Looks like I need to spend some time getting you two sisters into bed. Seeing Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi's reactions, Roy flew directly in front of Amaterasu and grabbed her wrist. "Let me go. How can you be so rude? Don't resist," Roy said with a dissatisfied expression. "You are also a clone of the ancient Earth Goddess. Now all the Earth Goddesses in the world have surrendered to me. And you are the only one left who slipped through the net. Even if you have become the snake of the sun, you cannot resist me and tame all the Earth Goddesses. Charm. And you are not the first sun snake that I have tamed. Charm or something." Although Amaterasu didn't feel the charm that Roy mentioned, Roy did have a lot of Earth Goddess aura about him. These auras of the same origin made Amaterasu instinctively like Roy. Amaterasu gave in to Roy. As Amaterasu's vassal, Tsukuyomi was naturally unable to resist Roy. Chapter 610 The Three Sovereigns and Five Emperors of China Continent. Even if Loei does not appear, the sun goddess Amaterasu can defeat all the gods of the Yamato Islands, including Susanoo, and become the queen of the gods of the Yamato Islands. Therefore, after using force to seduce the sun goddess Amaterasu and the moon goddess Tsukuyomi, Roy did not stay in the Yamato Islands and directly teleported to the stronghold established by the Athenian expeditionary force on the Shenju continent. The primitive society of mainland China began with the Yuanmo people about 1.7 million years ago and ended with the establishment of the Xia dynasty in the 21st century BC. Primitive society went through two stages: primitive people and clan communes. Clan communes have gone through two stages: matrilineal clan communes and patrilineal clan communes. The Xia dynasty began in about 2070 BC, and was the first hereditary dynasty recorded in the history books of mainland China. The ruler of Xia was called Queen when he was in power, and Emperor after his death. The founder was Da Yu, and his capital was Yangcheng. Shang Shuyugong records that Da Yu divided the world into 9 states, namely Zhizhou, Yangzhou, Qingzhou, Xuzhou, Yangzhou, Jingzhou, Yuzhou, Liangzhou, and Yongzhou. After the Tushan Conference was approved by the princes from all directions, Da Yu used the bronze tribute from the princes to cast the Jiuzhou tripod, namely the Zhizhou tripod, the Yangzhou tripod, the Qingzhou tripod, the Xuzhou tripod, the Yangzhou tripod, the Jingzhou tripod, the Yuzhou tripod, the Liangzhou tripod and the Yongzhou tripod. The famous mountains and rivers, rare birds and animals of each state are cast on it. Jiuding symbolizes the 9 states, among which the Yuzhou tripod is the central tripod, and Yuzhou is the central hub. The 9 cauldrons were concentrated in Yangcheng, the capital of the Xia dynasty, to show that Xia King Da Yu had become the lord of the 9 provinces, and the world was unified from then on. Jiuding then became the seat of destiny. a symbol of the supremacy of royal power and the unity and prosperity of the country. 1600 BC. In order to seize the status of the common ruler of the world, Cheng Tang, the king of the Shang state, launched a war to destroy Xia against Hu Ji of the Xia dynasty. After the Battle of Mingqiao, Xia Hojia's army was completely defeated by Shang Jun Cheng Tang. Xia Hojia took Jiuding and his family and fled to Nanchao Kingdom. The year is 1594 BC. Although Xia Ji is still alive, he is already a withered bone in the grave, and he will never be able to defeat Cheng Tang and regain his position. Yangzhou is one of the 9 states in the world. Haiyang is located at the mouth of the Yangtze River. The Athenian expeditionary force established a stronghold here and built a temple to Loei. Roy teleported to the sky above Haiyang, looked down at the earth and saw the river flowing into the East China Sea. The feeling of a wanderer returning home immediately made Roy unable to hold back tears. Mother Earth, Mother Yangtze River, I'm back. When Roy activated the sun godhead, infinite light bloomed and fell from the sky. He saw a group of local residents living with the Athenian soldiers kneeling on the ground. Not only did they worship him devoutly, but they also called themselves Emperor Jun. In the mainland of China, Emperor, Emperor, and Empress are all honorific titles for rulers. Because the worship of gods and ancestors coexist in China mainland, ancestors and honorific titles will be deified. The older the ancestors and honorifics are, the more noble they are. The emperor is higher than the emperor because the era of the 3 emperors was earlier than the era of the 5 emperors. The emperor is higher than the queen because the era of the 5 emperors is earlier than the era of the queen. The 3 emperors are the emperor of heaven, the emperor of earth, and the emperor of Thailand. The emperor's clan is one of the 3 emperors, the head of the 5 dragons, and the first monarch of the world after the creation of the world. Also known as Qianling, Qianwu, Qianzuan, Yuanxi Qianwang, and Zhongqian Huangjun. Mikado means the supreme leader, who shines like the sun. Legend has it that the De Huang family had a surname of Yu, a given name of Jian, a courtesy name of Ziyuan, and a nickname of Wenyu. And they were from the Guyue tribe. His 11 brothers all have women's faces, tall foreheads, horses' paws, and snakes' bodies. They ruled the world with fire virtue, and became the tribal leaders after the emperor clan. The human emperor's surname was Kai. His given name was Hu Dao. His courtesy name was Wensheng. And his nickname was Ju Fang. After the emperor of earth, the emperor of humanity arose. 9 brothers took charge of the 9 states and ruled the world with their earthly virtues. In ancient times, emperor meant shining brightly like the sun. And Ishi's original meaning was God. So as time evolved, the 3 emperors took on new meanings. Emperor clan, the most noble among the gods. The emperor of the earth, the most noble among the earth gods. The human emperor, also known as the Thai emperor, is the common master of all people in the world. Among the 3 emperors, there are the most expensive version of the emperor of heaven, the most expensive version of the emperor of earth, and the most expensive versions of the emperor of humanity and emperor of Thai. The human emperor can keep pace with the emperor of heaven and the emperor of earth because the gods of heaven and earth are illusory. But the human emperor's rule over the world is real. The 3 emperors period lasted from 800 BC to 3000 BC. During this era, many leaders of ancient tribes received the honorific title of emperor. The Chao family is honored as Chao Huang. The Sui Ren family is honored as Sui Huang. The Fuxi family is honored as Shi Huang. The Nuwa family is honored as Hua Huang. And the Shinnong family is honored as Nong Huang. It is worth mentioning that Nuwa in real history is not a god, but an ancient tribal leader like other emperors. Nuwa was Fuxi's wife. She came to power after Fuxi's death. She was elected as emperor by the clan alliance. She established her capital in Ruyang and was named empress. In ancient times, the sky was also called Huangqian, and the earth was called Hutu. As one of the emperors, Nuwa became the earth goddess in the long historical evolution. This is actually the result of the fusion of the deified Nuwa and the worship of Hutu. The earth goddess, Nuwa and Hutu are actually 2 mothers of the earth. Nuwa, the mother of the earth, is worshipped more as Hutu, the mother of the earth, rather than as Emperor Wa, the wife of Fuxi, the leader of the ancient tribe. After the end of the 3 emperors era, there was the 5 emperors era. Sun god Emperor Jun is one of the 5 emperors. Emperor Ku, whose surname is Ji and whose given name is Jun, Born in Gaoxin. He was named Gaoxin. At the age of 15. He assisted his uncle Zhuanxu. After Zhuanxu's death, Ji Jun, who was 30 years old, inherited the throne and became the common ruler of the world. He made Bo the capital and Mu the emperor. He was named Gaoxin. At that time, the Yuan dynasty was changed to the first year of Emperor Ku. Beloved by the people. Diku is the title of the leader of the Diku tribe. The Diku tribe is a branch of the Yi people, and is closely related to the Zhuanxu tribe. Diku later succeeded Zhuanxu as the leader of the Donga tribe group. Ku maintained his status as the distant ancestor of the Shang tribe in the east. Most people say that he and Jian Di had a natural bond with Jian Di because of the Zhuaniao. And he had the status of the ancestor god of the Shang tribe. The mysterious bird of destiny descends and gives birth to Shang. A black bird is a black bird. Some authors who made up myths and stories couldn't even distinguish the colors. Mistook the five-color peacock for a black bird. And mistakenly believed that the five-color bird Kong Xuan was the mythical founder of the Shang dynasty. In fact, the five-color black bird is the golden crow the sun. Donga tribes, including the Shang tribe, use birds as their totems, which is originally a kind of sky god worship. Among the phenomena in the sky, the one with the most powerful power and the most worthy of human worship is of course the sun. Could it be that the moon, the stars, the thunder, the wind, any sky phenomenon can surpass the sun? Emperor Jun became the sun god, which was the fusion of Donga tribe's ancestor worship and sun worship. The sun god Di Jun was of course worshipped as the sun god, not as a tribal leader in the five emperors era. After the Xia dynasty, the goddess of earth and earth served as the patron saint. The Shang dynasty was able to defeat the Xia dynasty because the Shang dynasty not only worshipped the sky god, but also the most powerful sun god among the sky gods. The fact that the word emperor in the era of the five emperors could become the name of the sun god Emperor Jun also shows the sacredness of the word emperor. Therefore, during the Shang dynasty, the Shang king would only proclaim himself emperor after his death. In the era of King Ju of Shang dynasty, King Ju became Emperor Shen while he was still alive, which was to strengthen his own divine power and deify himself into a living god. Because emperors and emperors are almost equal, Emperor Ju, Emperor Shen, is also regarded as the emperor of humans and the emperor of Tai, and is an existence that goes hand in hand with the emperor of heaven and the emperor of earth. In order to please the gods, the emperor of Ju demoted himself to the son of heaven, the son of the emperor. So Emperor Shen became the last human emperor. Emperor Tai. Tai Huang is also known as Tai and Tai. Therefore, the sun god worshipped by the Donga tribe is also called Dong Huang Tai. Because the king of Thailand is the human incarnation of the sun god, the emperor of the Western Zhou dynasty regarded the emperor Yuan Shi Qianwang as the ancestral god. This was also the reason why Yuan Shi Qianwang helped Zhou to destroy Shang during the War of Gods. Chapter 6:11 Conquering Kyushu from Yangzhou. The five emperors in the five emperors era were Huangdi Zhuanyuan, Zhuanxu Emperor Qian Huang, Emperor Ku times Dejuan, Emperor Yao, and Emperor Shun. After the end of the five emperors era, there was the Xia queen era of the Xia dynasty. Xia rulers were called queens when they were in power and emperors after their death. Huyi was one of the kings of the Xia dynasty. The myth of Huyi shooting 9 days is based on the Xia dynasty, which worshipped the earth goddess, and attacked Dongli, which worshipped the sun god. 9 is the ultimate number. Huyi shot for 9 days, which means that Huyi wiped out many Donga tribes who worshipped the sun god. Huyi, also known as Yi and Yi, was the leader of the Youcheng clan in the Xia dynasty. At that time, Taikang, the son of Xia Hoqi, indulged in recreation and hunting and ignored political affairs. Yi, the leader of the Youcheng clan, took advantage of the weakening Xia kingdom's ruling power to launch an attack and expel Taikang. After Taikang's death, Huyi made Taikang's younger brother Zhongkang the queen of Xia, and the real power was in the hands of Huyi. After Zhongkang's death, his son succeeded to the throne, and Huyi expelled the prime minister and became the king himself. This is known in history books as Taikang lost his country and Huyi replaced Xia. But Huyi only focused on hunting and left political affairs to Hanzhua, and was later killed by Hanzhua. Yangzhou, Haiyang on the north bank of the Yangtze River estuary, the stronghold of the Athenian expeditionary force. Roy was not happy at all when he saw that the locals regarded him as the sun god Emperor Jun. Because Roy is neither the sun god worshipped by the Donga people, nor the emperor of the five emperors era. Thinking of Di Jun, Roy was glad that he did not release the fire of the sun and be regarded as the god of fire. In the mainland of China, the sun is also the original fire. So the god of fire is also the son of the sun god. Qi, Sun's surname and given name Qi, is the son of Emperor Ku and Jian Di. He was appointed by Emperor Yao to be in charge of Huzheng, the Shang dynasty. His tribe took the land as its name as Shang, and became the ancestor of Shang dynasty. He was the ancestor of Shang Tang, the founder of the Shang dynasty. Later generations honored him as the ancestor of Shang and the god of fire. Haiyang's Athenian expeditionary force reached 20,000 people. It is not an exaggeration to say that the stronghold established by the Athenian expeditionary force in Haiyang is a city. The local tribes outside Haiyang city have a combined population of tens of thousands. Roy landed in the sky above Haiyang city and said in a god's voice that everyone could hear. Everyone, listen. I am not Emperor Jun, the sun god worshipped by the Donga people. I am Loui, the emperor of the Athenian Empire. And I am also the only male sun god Phaethon in the Athenian Empire. I know you must be curious about why I am given the honorific title. There are not separate emperors, and empresses, but the emperor and the emperor together are called the emperor. This is because my achievements are greater than those of the 3 emperors and 5 emperors. And only the merger of the emperor is worthy of my honorific title. Great Emperor. I am the leader of the Yuhai clan. The local tribe leader raised his head and said to Roy, only the co-owner of the world who rules the Central Plains can be given the honorific titles of Emperor, and Empress. The current co-owner of the world who rules the Central Plains is Cheng Tang, Empress of Shang dynasty. If you don't rule the Central Plains, how can you proclaim yourself Emperor? You're right, Roy said in agreement. I also believe that only the co-ruler of the world is qualified to call himself Emperor in the mainland of China. In order to make my status as Emperor legitimate, I plan to become the co-ruler of the world. Are you willing to help me? The leader of the Hai family nodded without hesitation. After all, it is just a legend that Xia Hojie and Shang Hu Qingtang were regarded as natural gods. Roy is the sun god who descended from the sky. But it was a miracle that the leader of the Hai family saw with his own eyes. Most importantly, Loui had an army of 20,000 iron soldiers. In the Battle of Mingqiao, Shang Huji defeated Xia Huji and became the common master of the world with 70 chariots and 6,000 soldiers. Even if 1/10 of Roy's 20,000 strong army was used, it would still be enough to sweep across the Chinese mainland. After all, Athenian soldiers used iron weapons and iron armor, which could carry out a reduced dimensional attack on the soldiers of the Bronze Age with 1 against 10. Seeing that the leader of the Hai family was willing to surrender to him, Roy said with satisfaction, then you hand over the power of the leader and go to Xia Hojie as my envoy. And let Xia Hojie come to see me in person. I want to defeat Cheng Tang and become the common leader of the world. It can also be regarded as revenge for Xia Hojie. He should just do your part for me. You want me to give up my identity as leader. The Chinese mainland of this era was also in the city-state era and the slave era. Whether it was Xia Hojie or Shang Hu Qingtang, they only became the common masters of the world in name. In fact, the princes, large and small, are the kings of a country in their own territories. Because wars often broke out between vassal states and various tribes, people were divided into 3 classes: the ruling class, the civilian class, and the slave class. Prince and General Xiang Ning have the guts to do that. Chen Sheng shouted this sentence in 209 BC. The year is 1594 BC. Princes, generals and ministers are born with talent. Roy wanted to deprive Yu Hai of his identity as the leader of the Hai family. And the leader of the Hai family instinctively wanted to resist. Seeing the reaction of the leader of the Hai family, Roy said with a joking smile, not only will I deprive you of your status as leader, but I will also abolish the 2 classes of nobles and slaves in the Hai tribe. From now on, everyone in the Hai tribe will be citizens of the Athenian Empire. If you want to resist, I can give you a chance to call in the soldiers. Fight Roy with force. The leader of the Hai family would not dare to even think about it. There are only about 10,000 men, women, old and young in the Hai tribe. There are only about 1,000 young and strong men capable of fighting. And there are weapons from the Hai clan, most of which are stone spears and wooden spears. With this strength, it would be suicide to fight Roy's 20,000 strong army. The leader of the Hai family struggled for a while, and finally said with a grimace, I am willing to go to Xia Hojie as your envoy. The next day, the leader of the Yuhai clan, escorted by 10 Athenian warships, followed the Yangtze River waterway to the Yuchao kingdom where Xia Hojie was located. Roy also began to assimilate the Yuhai tribe and abolish various backward traditions, such as human sacrifice. In ancient times, due to the backward production methods, it was a natural result that human beings became sacrifices. Livestock eating grass does not compete with people for food, and it also serves as livestock power for farming. Slaves will consume their master's food and will not work for the slave owner sincerely. Therefore, slaves are like tasteless and useless waste. Being sacrifices becomes the main destination of slaves. Later, the status of slaves was improved and they were no longer sacrifices. And the slavery system was even abolished entirely because of the advancement of production methods and better ways to exploit them. The system implemented by Roy in the Yuhai tribe is undoubtedly supported by the majority of people. Those slaves were naturally grateful to Roy. Commoners were also allocated land, exempted from various corvée and miscellaneous taxes, and no longer had to endure exploitation by aristocratic leaders. The only dissatisfaction is the aristocratic class who have lost their status, power and wealth. The number of these nobles is so small that they can be ignored. And Roy certainly doesn't care what they think, even if they want to resist. Will the common people and slaves be willing to support these nobles to regain power and continue to exploit the common people and squeeze slaves? No one in this world is a fool. If the nobles wanted to take back their power, it was possible for commoners and slaves to capture them and sacrifice them to Loei. South Nest. This is the Yuchao kingdom ruled by the Yuchao clan. After Xia Hojie was defeated by Cheng Tang, he fled here and was protected by Yuchao kingdom. The life of being dependent on others made Xia Hojie extremely ill in just a few years, and half of his feet were already in the coffin. Xia Hojie's health deteriorated, which made his wife, sister, burst into tears. Because once Xia Hojie died, Yuchao kingdom would no longer protect Xia Hojie's wives, concubines, and children. Chapter 6:12 Let the common master of the world be the tool. 1594 BC. April. Xia Hojie, the former leader of the common people of China mainland, came to Haiyang city with his wives, concubines and children. Ji is not Xia Hoji's destiny. His surname is Sai. His given name is Gui. He is the son of Emperor Fa. And Ji is his posthumous name. So he is called Xia Ji in history. After the death of Emperor Fa, Ji succeeded to the throne of Xia dynasty. He was the first king in history to suffer the fall of his country. And his concubine Mai Shi was also the first queen to suffer the reputation of beauty and disaster. To say that Xia Ji is a foolish king, and that Mai Shi is a beauty is a disaster is of course nonsense. Xia Ji's crime was that he lost the war with Cheng Tang for hegemony. As a loser and the former co-owner of the world, if Xia Ji was not a mediocre person with heinous crimes, Cheng Tang would have no legitimate reason to seize hegemony. After all, Xia Ji is the common master of the world. Cheng Tang is Xia Ji's vassal. And Cheng Tang's fight against Xia Ji is the inferior defeating the superior. Today Cheng Tang can defeat Xia Ji, and tomorrow the other princes can defeat Cheng Tang and his descendants. Therefore, in order to have the following legitimacy, Cheng Tang must belittle and discredit Xia Ji so that he can have the legitimacy to replace Xia Ji. King Ju became the second king to be subjugated, and Daji became the second queen to be blamed for her beauty and disaster. It was also based on the same reason. If King Ju was not stupid and unprincipled, there was no legitimate reason for the Western Ju dynasty to restrain its superiors. And other princes could also restrain the emperor of Ju. When Ji was in power, the princes no longer came to pay their respects. The Xia royal family did not repair its internal affairs and suffered from constant foreign aggression. As the co-owner of the world, Xia Ji had to conquer the princes who opposed him in order to consolidate his authority. The Mengshan kingdom with the Shi family was a large tribe that fought against Xia Hojie. And Mei Shi was the princess with the Shi family. Xia Ji conquered the Shi family and not only made the Yushi family surrender, but also got the Yushi family's princess Mei Shi as his concubine. There are poems praising Yushi's beauty, there are poems praising Yushi's beautiful features. Dressed in colorful clothes, graceful and graceful, the crystal rain and dew show the pity of people. Judging from the first half of Xia Ji's life, he was undoubtedly a heroic figure who expanded his territory and brought back beauties. It is a pity that Xia Ji met Cheng Tang, who was more powerful than him in the second half of his life. While Xia Ji conquered the princes and expanded the territory, Cheng Tang was also annexing the princes to strengthen itself. Moreover, Shiaji was the common ruler of the world. In order to suppress the resistance of the princes, Shiaji's attitude was naturally hostile to the princes. Therefore, Cheng Tang could unite with other princes to attack Shiaji. In the end, during the Battle of Mingqiao, Shiaji became a bereaved dog who fled in a hurry and came to the country of Yuchao to live a life of dependence on others. The temporary palace of Haiyang City. Athenian-style banquet hall. Roy sat on a wooden throne and summoned Xia Hojie and his family. Xia Hojie walked into the hall with his group of wives, concubines, and children. Roy's eyes immediately widened in surprise. Because Xia Hojie, who appeared in front of Roy, was obviously middle-aged. But his appearance was that of a grey-haired and terminally ill old man. It looks like the Walking Dead. Although Xia Hojie's body was still alive, his heart was dead. Xia Hojie's wife Meishi lived up to the reputation of beauty as a disaster. Although she is over 30 years old, she still has the beauty and charm of a peerless beauty. Xia Hojie's concubines were all rare beauties. Xia Hojie had more than a dozen children, and the daughter who followed Meishi was the most beautiful. She inherited Meishi's charming figure and face, and was obviously the daughter of Xia Hojie and Meishi. Seeing that Xia Hojie and his family did not intend to salute him, Roy took the initiative to joke. Queen Xia, I am the emperor of the Athenian Empire. Even if you are still the co-lord of the 9 states, you are still the leader of a small country in front of me. Now you are neither the co-lord of the world nor have your own territory or subjects. Why are you here? Are you so rude in front of me? Do you still think you are the master of the world? Shiaji looked at Roy on the throne calmly and said, kill if you want. It's okay to ask for life, but not for etiquette. This is Shiaji's attitude. As the co-owner of the world, only others have ever saluted Shiaji, and Shiaji has never saluted others. If Shiaji was willing to let go of his pride as the leader of the world and surrender to Cheng Tang, he would never end up where he is now. In the war between Shiaji and Cheng Tang, Shiaji also defeated Cheng Tang and imprisoned Cheng Tang in Xiaotai. Cheng Tang swore in front of Shiaji that he would sincerely repent and swear allegiance to Shiaji until Shiaji gave Cheng Tang a chance to start a new life. With this past incident, as long as Shiaji surrenders to Cheng Tang will definitely let Shiaji sit in the kingdom of vassals to repay Shiaji's past kindness. Even if Cheng Tang wanted to kill Shiaji, he still had to do it to show the princes in the world. After all, if Cheng Tang didn't even repay Shiaji for his life-saving grace, he would definitely alienate the princes. After Shiaji took his family and fled to Yuchao Kingdom, Cheng Tang did not pursue Shiaji because he did not want to face Shiaji. If Cheng Tang wanted to kill them all, Yuchao would not have the strength to fight against Cheng Tang. Nor would they make a huge sacrifice for Shiaji. Of course Roy had no intention of humiliating Shiaji. Shiaji's unwillingness to bow to Roy does not affect Roy's use of Shiaji. Queen Xia, your Xia kingdom respects the Earth Goddess. And our Athens Empire also respects the Earth Goddess. This shows that the Athens Empire and the Xia kingdom have the same ancestors. Now the Shang kingdom, which worships the sun god, has stolen the power of the common ruler of the world. I want to defeat Shang. The country conquers Kyushu. Are you willing to help me? Help you? Shiaji simply rolled his eyes. For Shiaji, he is the common master of the world. Cheng Tang is a rebellious traitor who is trying to conquer his superiors. Roy, who wants to replace Cheng Tang, is of course also a traitor. But compared with Cheng Tang, Roy is obviously not Shiaji's mortal enemy. If Roy can be used to break Cheng Tang's dream of being the co-owner of the world. Thinking of the scene where Cheng Tang lost everything just like him, Shiaji felt like he could wake up from his dream with a smile. How do you want me to help you? Cheng Tang has now taken away Dao Jiuding and became the common master of the world. If I conquer Kyushu as a foreign invader, Cheng Tang can call on the princes to unite against me and increase the casualties of Athenian soldiers. So in order to weaken Cheng Tang's strength, I plan to use your name as the former co-master of the world to attack Cheng Tang. This war has become a battle for hegemony between the former co-master of the world and the current co-master of the world. The princes will definitely not want to be involved in this war. After all, no matter whether it is Xia whether Hu Ji becomes the co-lord of the world or Cheng Tang becomes the co-lord of the world, the authority of the co-lord of the world will not fall on other princes. You want me to be your puppet dash? Shiaji asked, suppressing his anger. I helped you become the co-owner of the world. How do you plan to repay me? My requirements are not high. As long as you can let me restore the Xia kingdom dash. No. Roy shook his head and said, I will not help you restore the Xia kingdom. Because under the rule of the Athenian Empire, the vassal states and princes and nobles on the mainland of China will disappear. The slavery system will be abolished. And everyone will become citizens of the Athenian Empire and enjoy equal status and that power. How is this possible? Xia Hojie said in disbelief. The princes and nobles are all descendants of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Without them to assist you, how can you defeat Cheng Tang and how can you bring the world's princes back to their hearts? Chapter 6:13 Xia Hui, the daughter of Xia Ji's sister. After all, Xia Ji was the former co-owner of the world. Only others take the initiative to meet Xia Ji. And of course there is no possibility for Xia Ji to take the initiative to meet others. Now Xia Ji will meet Roy in the same way that a lower-ranking person meets a superior. This is entirely the result of the military deterrence of the Athenian soldiers who escorted the leader of the Yuhai family to the Yuchao country. The leader of Yuchao arrived at Yuchao kingdom under the escort of 500 Athenian soldiers. The king of Yuchao kingdom saw the weapons and armor of the Athenian soldiers. So he sent 1,000 soldiers to seize it by force. As a result, 100 Athenian soldiers went out to fight and defeated 1,000 soldiers from the Chao kingdom. The Athenian soldiers have the fighting power of 1 against 10. 100 Athenian soldiers can defeat 1,000 soldiers of the Nest kingdom. And 500 Athenian soldiers can defeat 5,000 soldiers of the Nest kingdom. But in fact, Yuchao kingdom only has 3,000 soldiers. In other words, 500 Athenian soldiers were a military force capable of destroying the kingdom of Chao. Because he was afraid of the Athenian soldiers, the king of Yuchao state directly gave Xia Ji and his family to the Athenian soldiers regardless of whether Xia Ji wanted to do so. Xia Ji believed that Roy could defeat Cheng Tang and seize the power of the common leader of the world. Also because he knew the power of the Athenian soldiers. Young man, although you have 20,000 invincible soldiers, you cannot use 20,000 soldiers to manage the thousands of miles of the 9 states of the world. Only by using benevolence to win over the princes. Let the princes return to their hearts and support you to become the common master of the world. You only then can Cheng Tang be truly defeated. Xia Ji persuaded him earnestly. I hate that thief Cheng Tang so much. I sincerely support you in defeating Cheng Tang and letting him be punished for his betrayal. Without the support of the princes, I cannot rule the world. Roy said with a disdainful sneer. Queen Xia, if you princes who have inherited the blood of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors are so special and have abilities that ordinary people do not have, then why do you still use divine power to strengthen the rationality of your rule? The reason why you rely so much on divine power to deify yourself is actually because you know very well that you these naturally noble princes, and nobles are no different from common people. What you can do can also be done by common people. So you must use blood to divide classes so that common people will always be common people. Nobles will always be nobles. And slaves will always be slaves. So you want to make enemies of the princes of the world. I just want to level the world's princes and demote all princes and nobles to civilians. Including your Xia royal family. You? After hearing Roy's declaration, Xia Ji's hostility towards Roy suddenly rose. Even approaching Xia Ji's hatred towards Cheng Tang. Although Cheng Tang caused Xia Ji to lose his territory and people, Xia Ji and his descendants still had aristocratic status, and could continue to enslave commoners and slaves. If Luoi flattened all the princes in the world and demoted all the princes and nobles to common people, Xia Ji and his descendants would no longer be able to enjoy the life of a superior man. It turns out that you are the enemy of all our princes and nobles. If you could have appeared earlier, maybe Cheng Tang and I would not have had a war, but would have joined forces to deal with you. The foreign invader. You're right. Roy nodded in agreement and said. I also think that since I came to China 5 years in advance, you and Cheng Tang will not only not become sworn enemies, but will fight side by side against me like brothers. Roy stood up and left the throne. Walked to Xia Ji and his family. Looked at Mai Shi's daughter and said. Queen Xia. Now that you know my goal, will you help me defeat Cheng Tang? Or will you oppose me? Seeing Roy staring at his daughter, Xia Ji said with a gloomy expression. Are you threatening me? Roy shook his head and said. I am just observing your tool candidate. If you are not willing to be used by me as a tool, then I will make your daughter the new summer queen. And then use your daughter's name to defeat the traitor Cheng Tang. The daughter of Xia Ji, and Mai Shi looks to be only about 16 years old. She looked at Roy with her big, innocent eyes, with both curiosity and fear in her eyes. Looking at this little girl who had inherited Mai Shi's beauty, and was pretty and charming, Roy asked with a gentle smile. May I have your name? E? The girl said fearfully. Please don't hurt our family. What a good name. Then your surname is Sai and E. And you can also call yourself Xia E. The petite and cute loli in front of him reminded Roy of Philomela when he met him for the first time. Just when Roy couldn't help, but stretched out his right hand and wanted to use head-touching kill on Xia E. Meishi immediately blocked her daughter behind her. Roy immediately frowned and said with an unhappy expression. Concubine Yuan. Have you forgotten that when Queen Xia defeated the Yushi tribe? You were sacrificed to Queen Xia by the Yushi tribe. Now that your family is in my hands, shouldn't you let your daughter follow your example? Meishi gritted her teeth and said firmly. It is because I am a victim that I cannot let my daughter make the same mistake again. I would rather let heir marry a noble nobleman with no ambitions and live a safe life than let her stay with someone like you. You are an enemy of the princes of the world. In the future, you will definitely die and your country will be destroyed. You want your daughter to marry a noble and unambitious prince and live a safe life, oh my. It seems that you have enough reasons to resent me. After all, after I demoted all the princes and nobles in the world to commoners, your daughter can only marry me. You can only marry a commoner. Xia Ji stood in front of Roy at this time, protecting his wife Meishi and daughter Xia E behind him and said, we can't be as crazy as you and be enemies with all the princes and nobles in the world. Moreover, you have no intention of helping me restore my country. Helping you will do us no good. Even if I beg you, please let our family go. You make me look like a bad person by saying this. Roy sighed helplessly, and then said to Xia E, Princess Xiao E, are you willing to be my tool? As long as you agree to me, I will give your family safety and freedom, and give them generous betrothal gifts so that they can always enjoy a life without worries about food and clothing. Sacrificing one person can save the whole family. Does Xia E have the choice to refuse? For the sake of her father, mother, and brothers and sisters, Xia E couldn't refuse. So whether Xia E wanted it or not, she could only agree to Roy. If Xia E is not willing to sacrifice herself for her parents and siblings, then how can she stay with her parents and siblings in the future? I promise you. Xia E walked around Xia Ji, and Mai Shi and walked in front of Roy. Roy put his right hand on her little head with satisfaction and smiled while using his head to kill. Very good. Since the era of the 5 emperors, no woman has ever become the co-lord of the world. I will make you the second emperor Wa Xia Hui, the co-lord of the world. Xia Ji couldn't help but complain. Since you know that since the era of the 5 emperors, no woman has become the co-owner of the world, why do you still keep making mistakes? First, you want to make enemies of all the princes and nobles in the world. And now you want my daughter to become the co-owner of the world. Do you think the more enemies you have, the better? I don't think commoners and slaves care whether the common master of the world is a man or a woman. Roy said with a smile. In my eyes, the princes and nobles are just bones in the grave. I really hope that they will all jump out and become my enemies so that I can deal with them all. Chapter 614 The most beautiful woman in the 3 realms Xia Chang'e. In ancient times, not only did Europa continent have a citizens' assembly, but China continent also had people discussing government affairs. Just as the citizens' assembly is an occasion for nobles to strive for public support, the people's deliberation is also an occasion for princes and nobles to strive for public support. Neither citizens nor countrymen have the power to elect officials or even remove them. After Xia Yi became Roy's tool, Roy held a national political discussion in Haiyang City. Haiyang City Plaza. There are citizen families of the Hai clan, and 3,000 people participated in this national discussion. Roy and Xia Yi sat in the center of the square, where the people of the country discussed politics, and took the initiative to introduce it to the people of the country. My fellow countrymen, I am Emperor Luoi, who will become the co-lord of the world. The girl beside me is Yi, the daughter of Xia Hojie, the co-lord of the world. She will become my wife and inherit Xia Hojie's identity as the co-lord of the world. Under my rule, you can speak freely if you have any dissatisfaction with the policies of the Athenian Empire. Any dissatisfaction? Under Luoi's rule, ordinary families could own 20 acres of land, and Chinese families could own 50 acres of land. Moreover, taxes and corvées are completely exempted. Although Roy is a foreigner, Roy's rule is more than 10 times better than that of the local princes and nobles. Comparing it with the local princes and nobles, no one can express dissatisfaction. No one in the world is a fool. These Chinese people have absolutely no intention of driving away outsiders and allowing the princes and nobles to continue to exploit themselves. Just when Roy thought no one wanted to express his opinion, an old man stood up and said, "Emperor, your policies are better than those of our own princes and nobles. I am only worried about whether these policies will change overnight. You have just ruled us now, so you will naturally treat us better in the future. The old man did not finish his sentence. Roy said with a smile, "I believe you all have such doubts, but I can assure you that the policies of the Athenian Empire will only make your life better and better. Because under the rule of the Athenian Empire, the officials in charge are not appointed or dismissed by me, but by me. It is up to you to elect and remove officials. If the officials you elect cannot make you live a better life, it is not my fault." After hearing Roy's words, all the people in the country were in an uproar. After all, this was an era when princes, generals and ministers were born with talent, tracing back to our ancestors. All the princes and nobles are descendants of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Now Roy actually wants to break the tradition and let the common people control the appointment and dismissal of those in power. Even Xia, as Roy's fiancée, couldn't help but say, "If you do this, will it cause chaos in the world?" Roy shook his head without hesitation and said, "Your father will lose to Cheng Tang because the Xia kingdom is only the Xia kingdom of Xia Ji, not the Xia kingdom of the princes, nobles and people. Even if the monarch changes to another person, it will have no impact on the people. Cheng Tang's army only has 6,000 people. Even if Xia Ji lost the Battle of Mingqiao, he should not lose the Xia kingdom. The princes and nobles of the Xia kingdom had no resistance to Cheng Tang, who won the Battle of Mingqiao, which was the real reason for Xia Ji's defeat. Now I let the people of the country become the master of the country and give them power and wealth that the princes and nobles can never give them. The people of the country will definitely defend the Athenian Empire to the death, because they are not fighting for me, but to keep their own power and wealth." Cheng Tang defeated Xia Ji at the Battle of Mingqiao, and immediately led his army westward, quickly occupying Xia's capital, Jinwei. All the noble ministers of Xia state expressed their willingness to surrender to Cheng Tang. After Cheng Tang appeased the subjects of Xia state, he poured out the soup and performed the ceremony of offering sacrifices to heaven, showing to the subjects of Xia state that they were punishing the guilty Ji according to the will of God. Maybe Cheng Tang will come and exploit the people of Xia kingdom. Didn't Xia Ji exploit the people of Xia state when he was there? Being ruled by Cheng Tang was no different from being ruled by Xia Ji. Naturally, the princes, nobles and people had no reason to defend Xia Ji to the death. The second day of the People's Political Consultative Conference, Roy took Xia Yi and a large fleet of 5,000 people to Nanchao, which was ruled by Chao Kingdom. Yangtze River waters, the flagship of the Athenian fleet. Roy stood on the bow of the boat admiring the scenery along the coast. Xia Yi, standing next to Roy, had her long hair and sleeved skirt blown high by the wind. Looking at this cute and charming girl, Roy couldn't help but think of the most beautiful woman in the 3 realms with the same name as her Chang'e. Chang'e's husband, Xia Hui, was the king of a poor country and the 6th queen of Xia in the Xia dynasty. As the wife of Xia Hui, Chang'e was of course also from the Xia dynasty. Chang'e, also known as Chang'e, flew to the moon because she secretly ate the elixir. The Shang dynasty hexagram book Guizang records the most original version of Chang'e flying to the moon. However, Guizang has been lost for a long time, and only 2 kin bamboo slips Guizang times Guimide remain. It is recorded above in the past. Chang'e stole Wu's death missing and flew to the moon, but she captured missing during the pre-Qin period. Shanhai Jing times Da Huang Shijing recorded that there was a woman who was bathing in the moon. Emperor Zhen's wife Chang, she was born on the 12th day of the lunar month. She gave birth to the moon 12 times. And then he began to bathe the moon. The 3 characters Shi, Yi and Chang'e have the same ancient pronunciation. In addition, the moon connects Chang'e and Chang'e. The names of Chang'e and Chang'e are combined to form Chang'e. Chang'e and Chang'e are both prototypes of Chang'e. But Chang'e and Chang'e are 2 completely different goddesses. Hu Yi's wife Chang'e took the elixir of the Queen Mother of the West and became the moon goddess. Before the Shang dynasty, the king was called the queen. So in the Xia dynasty, the queen was the king. The original hieroglyph of the earth character represents woman. So the earth character is the mother. The Queen Mother of the West before the Shang dynasty was actually the Queen Mother of the West. The Oriental bird Yi tribe, represented by the Shang dynasty, worshipped Emperor Zhen, the sun god, because the Choi tribe is located in the east. The sun god Emperor Jun is also the eastern Emperor Tai. The Xia kingdom is located to the west of the Choi tribe. So the earth goddess Hutu of the Xia kingdom is also called Zahutu, that is, the queen mother of the west. The trinity of the earth goddess Nuwa, Hutu empress, and the queen mother of the west is the most powerful, oldest and most authoritative goddess in the Chinese mainland. Chang'e flew to the moon and became a god because of the favor of Queen Mother Hutu of the west. Chang'e is the moon goddess because she is the wife of the eastern Emperor Tai and the sun god Emperor Jun. Chang'e, the fusion of Chang'e and Chang'e, is related to both the most powerful goddess and the most powerful male god. This complicates tracing Chang'e's origins. Roy originally thought that Chang'e, like Xia, was also a princess of Xia kingdom. Hu Yi usurped the throne of Xia kingdom in order to increase the legitimacy of his usurpation of the throne. He married Princess Chang'e of Xia kingdom. However, the Xia royal family's surname was Sai, and the surname of Hengyi was Heng. So there is another possibility for Chang'e's identity. During Hu Yi's reign, he once conquered the Niue tribe that worshipped the sun god Emperor Jun. This is the mythical prototype of Hu Yi's shooting of 9 days. Just like Mai Shi is the princess of the Xi tribe, who was conquered by Xia Ji. Chang'e was actually the princess of the Niue tribe, who was conquered by Hu Yi. The Noi tribe worships the sun god Taejun. Gods related to the sun, such as the god of fire and the moon goddess, are also worshipped as vassals of the sun god Taejun. Chang'e was the wife of Xia Hoi, who worshipped the earth goddess, but she became the vassal moon goddess of the sun god worshipped by the Niue tribe. Perhaps it was because Chang'e came from the Niue tribe. Chang'e's identity may be that of a witch serving the moon god. It is also possible that she was the witch of the sun god Di Jun, so she was regarded as his wife. Chapter 6:15 Earth Goddess Nine-Tailed Fox Nuwa. The country of Yuchao is the country established by the Yuchao clan. The Yuchao clan ranks first among the 5 clans, and is known as the first humanistic ancestor in Kyushu. According to historical records, the Chao family lived in the early Paleolithic age, 3 emperors era, and created the Chaoju civilization. The leader of the Chao clan was named Chao Huang and Da Chao clan. He was the co-leader of the tribal alliance, who reigned from 4964 BC to 4464 BC. The most important thing is that the Yuchao clan is different from the Choi tribe, who worships the gods headed by the eastern Emperor Tai and the sun god Dejuan, and is also different from the western Zhou tribe, who worships the gods headed by the Emperor clan and Yuanshi Qianwang, but worships the same as the Xia kingdom earth goddess. This is the main reason why Xia Ji came to Yuchao to seek asylum after losing his country. The Xia kingdom and the Yuchao kingdom both worship the earth goddess, proving that they originated from the same ancestor. The princes and nobles of this era have the same surnames as the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, which does not necessarily mean that they are truly descendants of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. But if they worship the same god, even if they do not originate from the same ancestor in terms of blood, at least they are truly one's own on a spiritual level. The fleet led by Roy headed westward in the waters of the Yangtze River, and soon arrived at Yuchao country. Although the Yuchao kingdom can be considered a big country, in the face of the dimensionality reduction strikes of the Athenian soldiers, the soldiers of the Yuchao kingdom, with only a small number of soldiers using bronze weapons, were naturally vulnerable. Therefore, Roy's army occupied the country of Nest with almost no obstacles, and then began to implement the policies of the Athenian Empire in the country of Nest. Under the rule of the Athenian Empire, common people and slaves gained huge benefits and became citizens who supported the Athenian Empire. The princes and nobles lost their power and wealth, and naturally they were full of hatred for the Athenian Empire. It is a pity that the number of princes and nobles is far less than that of common people and slaves. The princes and nobles, who did not get the support of the common people and slaves, had no other way to deal with Roy except for their incompetence and rage. Could the common people and slaves be so stupid as to support the princes and nobles and let the princes and nobles take away the power and wealth that Roy gave them? Obviously impossible. After incorporating Yuchao into the territory of the Athenian Empire, Roy led Xia and 3,000 soldiers northward by land. To the north of the Chao kingdom was the Tushan kingdom established by the Tushan clan, who lived on the Huaihe River. Legend has it that the ancestor god of the Xia royal family was Tushan. The spring and autumn period of Wu and Yu times the unremaining biography of the king of Yu records that when Yu was 30 years old and unmarried, he went to Tushan. He was afraid that the time would be twilight and he would lose his system. So he said in his words, "I will marry you. And I will be able to do so. There is a white fox with 9 tails created by you." Yu said, "The white ones are my subjects. Those with 9 tails are the evidence of kingship. Tushan song says Sway Sway White Fox. Nine-tailed leprous. In my Jiayi family. Guests are king. When we have a family and a house, I create prosperity. On the occasion of heaven and man. This is the way to go. You married a woman from the Tushan clan and called her Nuwa. Dayu's wife, the ancestor of the Xia royal family, was named Nuwa. And she was also a nine-tailed white fox. Because the southern clans including the Xia kingdom worshipped the earth goddess. They combined the ancestor Nuwa with the earth goddess. And the earth goddess Nuwa was born. Nuwa's ability to mend the sky and control the floods is a fabricated myth. The prototype is Nuwa's husband, Dayu, who controlled the floods. Sun Wukong was born from Nuwa's stone. And the prototype is also the story of Nuwa and Dayu's son breaking out of the stone. The story of how Yu excavated Zhuanyuan mountain and lost his wife and gave birth to a son can be found in a book of Han times Wudi Ji, Yang Shigu annotated, Huainanzi, Yu controlled floods and passed through Zhuanyuan mountain, turning into a bear. He said to Tushan, if you want to pay, you will come when you hear the sound of drums. Yu jumped on the stone and hit the drum by mistake. Tushan went there and saw Yu Fang acting like a bear. So he left in shame. When it reaches the foot of Songao mountain, it turns into stone and then becomes chi. Yu said, return to my son. The stone broke through the north and gave rise to life. Historical records Suoin quoted Shiben, Tushan's female name was Nuwa. And it was the daughter of Tushan who Yu married, whose name was Nvao. Historical records of Jingyi quoted emperor lineage, and said Yu married the son of the Tushan clan, and called her Nuwa to give birth to Chia. Sun Wukong broke the Nuwa stone and was born, which originated from the stone of Nuwa, the wife of Dayu. Therefore, the Nuwa, who left the Nuwa stone to patch the sky in journey to the west is the wife of Dayu. The Dinghai needle used by Sun Wukong is a treasure left by Dayu, which also implies that Sun Wukong is the son of Dayu. Because Xia state had this relationship with Tushan state. After Xia Ji's defeat, Tushan state was also suppressed by Chengtang. This was the reason why Xia Ji did not take his family to defect to Tushan state. In the list of gods, why was it Empress Nuwa who initiated the destruction of Shang? Because it was Shang Tang who destroyed the Xia dynasty established by Nuwa's descendants. Why was Daji who destroyed Shang Tang a nine-tailed white fox? Because the nine-tailed white fox was the incarnation of Nuwa. Tushan country. Roy came here with the Athenian army. He did not directly occupy Tushan kingdom, but first took Xia to the Nuwa temple to worship. After all, Roy's identity is already Xia Yi's fiancé. Nuwa is the ancestor of Xia Yi, which is equivalent to the ancestor of Luoi. Nuwa Temple. This is a magnificent temple built by Bronze Age standards. The temple enshrines the statue of Nuwa with the head of a human and the body of a snake. Next to the statue of Nuwa there is a statue of a nine-tailed white fox. Roy and Xia Yi walked to the center of the temple, and Xia Yi worshipped devoutly. After all, even if the earth goddess Nuwa is not the ancestor of Xia Yi, she is also the patron saint of Xia kingdom. Roy looked at the Nuwa statue and the nine-tailed fox statue with curious eyes, and found that both the Nuwa statue and the nine-tailed fox statue could feel the fluctuations of divine power. Are you a god too? Following a question, the statue of Nuwa suddenly turned into a goddess. The scenery of Feng Luanbao's tent is very special, and it is full of intricate decorations made of gold and gold. The distant mountains are green, and the sleeves are dancing gracefully to reflect the clouds. The pear blossoms are blooming in the rain, and the smoke in the peony cage is charming. But you can act charmingly and take back Chang'e to serve the king. Seeing Nuwa's goddess figure, Roy couldn't help but think of the poem dedicated to Nuwa by King Juin, The List of Gods. Xia Yi didn't react at all. Apparently only Roy could see Nuwa's figure. So Roy responded in a voice that was inaudible to humans. I am both a human and a god. Now that I have answered your question, should you answer mine? Are you Nuwa, the wife of Fuxi in the Three Emperors era? Or Nuwa, the nine-tailed white fox wife of Dayu? Or the clone of the ancient earth goddess? What a stupid question. Nuwa said with an unhappy expression. Since I am not worshipped as Nuwa, the wife of Fuxi, nor as Nuwa, the wife of Yu the Great, but as the goddess of the earth, the goddess of war, and the founder of mankind, do I still need to explain my identity? My name is just they are symbols that can be changed. Nuwa is my name. Hutu is my name. Queen Mother of the West is my name. Golden Mother of Yaokai is my name. But my core as the goddess of the earth will not change. That's great. After confirming that Nuwa was neither Fushi's wife nor Dayu's wife, Luoi said with a smile, "If you are the wife of Dayu, then you will not only be the ancestor of Xia Yi, but also my ancestor. Since you are a girl god, then marry me." "What did you say?" Seeing Nuwa glaring at him with an angry expression, Roy immediately explained, "Now that you have been completely defeated by Donghuang Tai and Sun God Emperor Jun, do you think you can defeat Donghuang Tai and regain the throne of the King of Gods? Without my arrival, the future will be the Emperor Yuanshi of the Western Zhou tribe. The Heavenly King defeated Donghuang Tai and became the Supreme Heavenly Lord." Chapter 6:16 Xia Yi becomes the nine-tailed white fox lady. As the Queen of the Gods when the Xia dynasty ruled Kyushu, one can imagine how arrogant Nuwa was. If she wanted Nuwa to get married and become a vassal of her husband like a human woman, it was certainly impossible for Nuwa to accept it. Because Nuwa's reaction was expected, Roy had already had reasons to convince Nuwa. Nuwa. Even at the peak of the Xia kingdom, you were only the Queen of the Gods who ruled 2 million square kilometers in name. If you are willing to marry me, I will not only help you regain the throne of the Queen of the Gods, but also let you own a territory of tens of millions of square kilometers. And you will not rule these territories in name, but actually rule." "Ah?" Nuwa said with a sneer. "Everyone can tell lies. When you really do this, I will consider marrying you. Then we have an agreement. When I dedicate 10 million square kilometers of territory to you, you will become my wife." After Roy finished speaking, the nine-tailed white fox statue next to Nuwa suddenly turned into a living nine-tailed white fox and jumped into Xia Yi's body. The next moment, Xia Yi's whole body bloomed with light, and she turned into beautiful white hair and fox ears on her head. 9 white fox tails appeared on her back, and her eyes turned into golden beast eyes. "You?" Seeing the nine-tailed white fox possessing Xia Yi, Roy immediately thought of Daji, who was also possessed by the nine-tailed white fox. "You do not need to worry," the nine-tailed white fox possessing Xia Yi said in Xia Yi's voice. "I am Nuwa of the Tushan clan, Yu's wife and her ancestor." The nine-tailed fox enshrined together with Nuwa turned out to be Tushan's Nuwa, the true ancestor of the Xia kingdom. "Since you are Xia Yi's ancestor, why do you want to possess her?" "It's not because of you," Nuwa of Tushan clan said dissatisfied. "Xiao Yi is your fiancé, and you are so shameless to propose marriage to another woman in front of her. I possessed Xiao Yi to help Xiao Yi keep your heart." After saying that, the nine-tailed fox incarnated by Tushan's Nuwa detached from Xia Yi and turned into the nine-tailed fox statue next to Nuwa again. Although Tushan's Nuwa has left, her magical power has not disappeared from Xia Yi, so Xia Yi still looks like the nine-tailed fox girl. Originally, Xia Yi was an ordinary human girl. Even though she had the status of the princess of Xia kingdom, her charm could not arouse Roy's attention. Now Xia Yi has turned into a nine-tailed fox girl. Her every smile, every look in her eyes is full of incredible charm, just like a goddess who has descended into the world. Seeing Xia Yi looking at him blankly, Roy couldn't help but hold her in his arms. "I originally thought you were my Chang'e, but I didn't expect you to be my Daji. Your Majesty, you don't hate me the way I am now, do you?" "Of course not." With the magical power of Tushan's Nuwa, Xia Yi is now like a demigod, and she can also see the form of a god. Empress Nuwa. Seeing Nuwa's true body arriving at the Nuwa temple, Xia Yi said in surprise and joy, "Did Empress Nuwa turn me into this?" "No." Nuwa denied without hesitation. "Although I have the same name as your ancestor, I am not your ancestor Tushan Nuwa. It was your ancestor Tushan Nuwa who made you like this." "Ah?" After listening to Nuwa's explanation, Xia Yi looked at the nine-tailed fox statue with doubtful eyes. Roy explained, "Xiao Yi, your ancestor Tushan's Nuwa made you look like this for her own sake. Originally, your ancestor Tushan's Nuwa was a nine-tailed white fox and was worshipped as a goddess. But the Xia kingdom fell. Tushan kingdom is suppressed by Chengtang, and the gods worshipped by Xia kingdom and Tushan kingdom will also be degraded and humiliated. As the goddess of the earth, Nuwa is still a powerful deity even if she loses her throne as the queen of the gods. But your ancestors Tushan's Nuwa is just a human being who became a god after death. Under Chengtang's humiliation, she is likely to change from a goddess to a demon. Now she turns you into this to maintain her own existence. In the future Hui, who rules the mainland of China, is also a nine-tailed fox lady. And Nuwa of the Tushan clan will not only not be degraded and humiliated, but will also be even more powerful than she is now. So that's it. Xie nodded suddenly. And then said to Nuwa and the nine-tailed fox statue. Empress Nuwa. Ancestors. It's all because of the incompetence of our descendants that Empress Nuwa and our ancestors are facing oppression from the Shang Kingdom and the Eastern Emperor Tai. Now that your majesty is here to help us, we will definitely regain the power of being the common ruler of the world. After leaving the Nuwa temple, Roy commanded the Athenian soldiers to occupy the Tushan kingdom. Although the Tushan royal family are distant relatives of Xie, which is equivalent to being distant relatives of Luoi, even Xie doesn't care about these distant relatives. And it is certainly impossible for Luoi to care. To the north of the Tushan kingdom is the Yu kingdom with the Yu clan. There is a Yu family named Gui, who is a descendant of Emperor Shun, one of the 5 emperors. As the last common ruler of the world in the era of the 5 emperors, Emperor Shun, like Emperor Jun, was a representative of the Dongyi ethnic group. In other words, the Yoyu state also worshipped the Eastern Emperor Tai and the sun god Emperor Jun. Emperor Shun abdicated to Yu. After Yu Sun Qi became the monarch of Xia, he suppressed the powerful Yoyu family and moved the Yoyu family to the north of the Huaihe River. During the Xiaokang period of the Xia dynasty, Xiaokang, a descendant of Yu, was helped by Yu Sai, the son of Shang Juan. Yu Sai took in the young master Xiaokang who was in trouble, and not only gave Xiaokang a place called Luani, but also married his beautiful and virtuous daughter to Xiaokang, and finally helped Xiaokang revive the Xia dynasty. Although in Xia Qi's era, the relationship between the Xia royal family and the Yu state was not good. But during the Xiaokang period, the Xia royal family and the Yoyu state became in-laws. After Xia Ji was defeated by Cheng Tang, the state of Yu did not take Xia Ji in, but it also did not attack Xia Ji in distress. Xia Ji took his family to flee and pass through the state of Yoyu, and received gifts from the state of Yoyu. Roy and Xia came to Yoyu state under the banner of the Xia royal family, and they should have been welcomed by Yoyu state. But in fact, Roy brought Xia and 2,000 Athenian soldiers to the country of Yoyu. And the country of Yoyu greeted them with 2,000 soldiers. Because the news that the princes and nobles of Yuhai Kingdom, Yuchao Kingdom, and Tushan Kingdom were wiped out by Roy has spread throughout Kyushu. Although the Yu state favored the Xia state in the war between Xia and Shang, Luoi was obviously the enemy of all princes and nobles. With the same 2,000 soldiers, it is certainly impossible for the 2,000 soldiers of Yu state to fight against the 2,000 soldiers of the Athenian Empire. What surprised Roy was that during the battle when the Athenian soldiers occupied the Yoyu kingdom, the Eastern Emperor Tai and the sun god Emperor Jun, worshipped by the Dongha people, did not come. Obviously, the Yoyu kingdom is no longer an ethnic group protected by Donghuang Tai. 400 years after the Yu kingdom moved southward, it had already been assimilated by the surrounding ethnic groups who worship the earth goddess. Therefore, the current patron saint of Yu state should be Nuwa, the goddess of the earth. The interests of gods are of course different from the interests of humans. Roy's elimination of princes and nobles hurt the interests of princes and nobles, but it had no impact on Nuwa's interests. Moreover, Roy has already said that he will conquer the mainland of China and dedicate tens of millions of square kilometers of territory to Nuwa. The benefits that Roy can bring to Nuwa are higher than those of the princes and nobles. Of course, Nuwa will not oppose Roy for the sake of the princes and nobles. Chapter 617 The restarted war between Xia and Shang. Haoqing. This city located in the north of Yu state was the capital of Shang state. The royal surname of the Shang dynasty was Zi, and he was a descendant of Emperor Jun, one of the 5 emperors. Originally, the descendants of Di Shun included the Yu family, who was the leader of the Dongyi ethnic group. Xia Qi suppressed the Yu clan and moved the Yu clan to the south. The Shang kingdom replaced the Yu clan and became the leader of the Dongyi ethnic group. The strength of Shang state was actually weaker than that of Xia state, which was why Cheng Tang was defeated by Xia Ji. Cheng Tang was able to defeat Xia Ji with the weak and the strong precisely because of the help of the Dongyi ethnic group. After Cheng Tang defeated Xia Ji, he continued to attack those princes who still regarded Xia as orthodox. Now the princes from all over the world, not to mention Yu state and Tushan state, even Yuchao state, which took in Xia Ji, have recognized that Shang state is the common ruler of the world. In order to imitate Yu's Tushan conference, Cheng Tang held a princes' conference in Haoqing that had been planned for several months. Book of Yizhu Times Yinzu records that princes, uncles, and chiefs of clans and tribes from all over the country came to pay tribute with gifts and tributes. expressing their submission to Tang. Within a few months, 3,000 princes gathered in Bo Haoqing Palace, a square for worshipping gods. Chengtang is receiving an audience from the princes. Of course, it is impossible for all the princes who surrendered to the Shang state to come to Haoqing in person. So among the 3,000 princes, many of them are represented by their family members. When all the princes and nobles or their representatives came to the sacrificial square, Chengtang, wearing a crown, stood on the sacrificial platform and shouted loudly. The Destiny Blackbird descended and gave birth to Shang. We, the Shang Kingdom, are the descendants of the Sun God Emperor Jun, and were ordered by the Heavenly Emperor to defeat the ruthless Xia Ji. Now I want to become the co-lord of the 9 provinces and dedicate the 9 cauldrons to the Heavenly Emperor. After Chengtang finished speaking, a group of palace soldiers immediately moved the Xia Kingdom 9 cauldrons under the altar. The ancestor of the Shang Kingdom was Ziki, the son of Di Jun, one of the 5 emperors. In other words, the Shang royal family is the descendant of Emperor Jun. Although Emperor Jun is one of the 5 emperors, he is still a human being. Even if he is worshipped as an ancestor god after his death, he cannot represent the so-called destiny. The mysterious bird of destiny descended and gave birth to Shang. This is the Shang royal family denying that their ancestors are human beings. The Eastern Emperor Tai and the Sun God Emperor Jun, who are commonly worshipped by the Dongyi ethnic groups, are designated as the ancestors of the Shang dynasty royal family. As the Sun God, Donghuang Tai Dejuan defeated the Earth goddess Nuwa, after the Shang kingdom defeated the Xia kingdom. Donghuang Tai became the king of the gods in Kyushu. Since Donghuang Tai is the king of the gods, the Shang royal family, as the descendants of Donghuang Tai, is certainly qualified to rule Kyushu under the orders of the Emperor of Heaven. At this time, the Prime Minister of Shang state was Yi Yin. Yi Yin was sold to Yusin state as a child and worked as a slave for the king of Yusin state. Because of his cleverness and dexterity, he has excellent cooking skills and works as a cook. Later, he served as a dowry male slave to the Shang kingdom. And Shang Tang made Yi Yin a minor minister. Because he was proficient in governing the country, he was taught state affairs by Shang Tang. After the death of King Zhongren, Yi Yin made Taijia emperor. After Taijia had been in office for 3 years, he became confused and violent, violated the law and corrupted morals. Therefore, Yi Yin placed Taijia in Tong Palace, and Yi Yin himself took charge of the country as regent. Taijia lived in Tonggong for 3 years, then repented, and Yi Yin returned to power in Taijia. In a parallel world, Zhao Jiao was appreciated by the first emperor for his excellent cooking skills. And then he started as a minister and gradually rose to the top of Zhao Jiao. Obviously, Zhao Jiao's life is to copy Yi Yin. It is a pity that although Zhao Jiao made the move to abolish Hu Hai and establish Ziying in his place, he was not a sage like Yi Yin. Seeing the Jirding being placed under the altar, Yi Yin immediately led the princes to congratulate him. The mysterious bird of destiny descended and gave birth to Shang. Since the king is the noble of the Emperor of Heaven, and he has obtained the 9 cauldrons of Xia, it is destiny to replace the Xia kingdom and become the common master of the world. The princes also said one after another. The mysterious bird of destiny descended and gave birth to Shang. Now that you have obtained the tripod of the 9 provinces, we are all willing to elect you as the common master of the world. Seeing that no one objected to his becoming the co-owner of the world, Chengtang said with a smile, "Since everyone has elected me as the co-leader, then I will pray to my ancestors and take over the destiny of the Emperor of Heaven." Just when Chengtang was about to order the killing of 36 human sacrifices and pray, a nobleman ran to the bottom of the altar in a panic and said, "Your Majesty, the Yu state has been occupied by the remnants of the Xia state. And now the remnants of the Xia state are leading 1,000 troops to invade Haoqing." Although Yu Chao and Tushan in the south recognized Chengtang as the common master of the world, they did not really support Chengtang. Therefore, Yu Chao and Tushan were occupied by Roy. But Chengtang didn't care. Now that even Yoyu state has been occupied by Roy, Chengtang has to pay attention to it. After all, Yu state is only about 400 miles away from Haoqing. Even if they marched 40 miles a day, Roy's army could reach Haoqing in 10 days. The remnants of the Xia kingdom dare to invade Haoqing with 1,000 soldiers. They really underestimate the elite soldiers and generals of my great merchant. At this time, the Shang state's strength as the leader of the world had greatly increased, and it already had 10,000 combatable soldiers. Although these merchant soldiers can only wear cloth armor and only half use bronze weapons, they are already the most powerful soldiers in the world in this era. Therefore, Cheng Tang did not think that the remnants of the Xia kingdom could defeat the Shang kingdom's strongest soldier in the world with 1,000 soldiers. What's more, in addition to the soldiers of the Shang state, Cheng Tang can also use his identity as the common master of the world to order the princes to send troops to fight to see which of these princes still loves Xia Ji. Monarch. Just when Cheng Tang was thinking about how to defeat the remnants of the Xia kingdom, Yi Yin reminded Cheng Tang, if the king does not offer sacrifices and pray, he will have to wait until noon tomorrow. Dong Huang Tai is the sun god. Therefore, sacrifices and prayers to Dong Huang Tai are always made at noon when the sun is the brightest. Cheng Tang came back to his senses and said, it's past noon today, so I plan to postpone the sacrificial prayers. When I catch the remnants of the Xia kingdom, I will use the 360 remnants of the Xia kingdom to perform a grand sacrifice. Human sacrifice has always been a custom in ancient times. Human sacrifice was very popular in the Shang dynasty. And human and animal sacrifices were used to worship ancestors and gods. The source of human sacrifices. Usually slaves. The source of slaves is usually prisoners of war. In other words, the more war occurs, the greater the number of human sacrifices. Then Cheng Tang said to the princes, everyone, the remnants of the Xia kingdom are not willing to lose their authority as the co-lord of the world. They lead 1,000 soldiers to invade Haocheng. Are you willing to help me? No one thought that the remnants of the Xia kingdom could defeat Cheng Tang with 1,000 soldiers. In the eyes of the princes, Cheng Tang asked the princes to help in the battle, which actually meant that the princes showed their loyalty. These princes are protected by their entourage, and by organizing the entourage of 3,000 princes, they can even form an army of tens of thousands, including Shang's own army. There are 20,000 troops. 20,000 against 1,000. The remnants of the Xia kingdom had no chance of winning. So the princes said one after another, I am willing to help the king in the battle and hand over all my followers to the king. It is destiny for Shang Tang to replace Xia Ji. The remnants of the Xia kingdom do not know their own strength and will perish on their own. It is a pity that I do not have time to return to the territory to gather an army. Otherwise my army will be able to wipe out the remnants of the Xia kingdom for the king. Not only do I want to hand over my followers to the monarch, I am also willing to go into battle myself and become a general under the monarch. Looking at the princes who expressed their loyalty to him, Cheng Tang showed a satisfied smile on his face. Although Xia Ji once defeated Cheng Tang, Xia Ji now has completely lost the support of the princes. Chapter 6:18 Sun God Emperor Jun Moon God Heng Shi 1594 BC. June. Roy took Xia Yi and 1,000 Athenian soldiers to Haocheng. Before the Athenian army fought with the Shang army, 500 Athenian cavalry came to join Roy, bringing Roy's strength to 1,500 men. Outside Haocheng, a harvested wheat field became a battlefield for the confrontation between the Athenian army and the Shang army. The strength of the Athenian army was 1,000 infantry and 500 cavalry, while the strength of the Shang army was 100 chariots, 10,000 infantry, and a combined force of 10,000 followers of 3,000 princes. Before the battle between the two armies, Cheng Tang sent an envoy to negotiate with Luoyi and Xia Yi. The envoy stated that as long as the Xia royal family was willing to respect Cheng Tang as the co-owner of the world, Cheng Tang would allow the Xia royal family to resume the country. Roy naturally rejected the envoy without hesitation. After all, 1,500 people are fighting against 20,000 people. The advantage lies with me. How can I lose the game that I must win without a fight? After the two sides started fighting, 100 chariots and 10,000 infantry from the Shang state came like a torrent, while the 10,000 coalition army composed of the entourage of 3,000 princes stayed put. In the war between Xia Ji and Shang Tang, except for the real allies of Xia Ji and Shang Tang who were involved in the war, most of the princes chose to watch. These princes did not help Xia Ji in the past, and they certainly would not help Shang Tang now. And 10,000 people versus 1,500 people. Shang Tang had such a huge numerical advantage and could still lose this war. So he was not qualified to become the common master of the world recognized by the princes. Under the gaze of all the spectators, Roy's Athenian army did not choose to defend in place, but took the initiative to confront the Shang army and wanted to confront the Shang army head-on. Then there was a scene that shocked all the spectators. The 500 Athenian cavalry were like sharp blades. dividing the Shang army of 10,000 into two. Immediately afterwards, 1,000 Athenian infantrymen launched a one-sided massacre against the Shang army like chopping melons and vegetables. The folk customs of this era were simple and simple. In addition, Shang Tang and Yi Yin were also wise kings and wise ministers. And the soldiers of the Shang kingdom were all elite soldiers who dared to fight and die. Unfortunately, the strong will of the Shang soldiers could not change the gap between them and the Athenian soldiers. 250 years ago, Emperor Zhu, the seventh king of the Xia kingdom, invented cloth armor. Now, 250 years later, cloth armor is barely available to all soldiers. Armor that is better than cloth armor is naturally impossible to wear on ordinary soldiers. However, all Athenian soldiers wore iron armor and used sharp iron spears that could cut through cloth armor at will. That is to say, the attacks of the Shang soldiers could hardly cause damage to the Athenian soldiers wearing iron armor. And their cloth armor could not defend themselves against the attacks of the Athenian soldiers. Faced with the strength gap of this dimensionality reduction strike, it was a natural result that Athenian soldiers massacred Shang soldiers one-sidedly on the battlefield. How is this possible? How is this possible? On the city wall of Haocheng, seeing the one-sided situation on the battlefield, Cheng Tang widened his eyes in disbelief and kept mumbling to himself. Not only Cheng Tang, but also the 3,000 princes, who were watching the battle couldn't believe what was happening in front of them. The remaining soldiers of the Xia kingdom are like invulnerable magic soldiers and generals. How could Xia Ji lose to Shang Tang in the first place? If the Shang army were to lose to the remnants of the Xia kingdom, Shang Tang, who had just been recognized by the princes as the common leader of the world, would immediately become a big laughing stock. Seeing that the Shang army was about to lose the war, Shang Tang prayed devoutly to the sun. Great ancestor Emperor Jun, please protect the soldiers of Great Shang and ensure that we, Great Shang, are invincible. Following Shang Tang's prayer, a huge black bird fell from the sky and landed on the battlefield. This is a black bird whose whole body is wrapped in the blazing fire of the sun. Black Tong Zhuan. So he can also be called Zhuaniao. Wu is also black. Therefore, this black bird wrapped in the golden sun's fire can also be called the golden bird. Zhuaniao Golden Crow. Seeing that the black bird wanted to interfere in the battle between the Shang soldiers and the Athenian soldiers, Roy immediately activated his divine power to fly over the battlefield and confront the blackbird. Destiny Blackbird. Golden Crow Emperor Jun. Are you really the ancestor of the Shang dynasty royal family? Does it matter whether I am Emperor Jun, the ancestor of the Shang royal family? Di Jun said coldly. Zhuaniao. Golden Crow. Emperor Jun. Dong Huang Tai. It's just a name used to call me. The most important thing is that I am the sun god. And the Shang dynasty royal family regards the sun god as the supreme god. That's right. As long as the Shang royal family respects the sun god, even if you are not their ancestor Emperor Jun, you can still protect them like your ancestors. Roy activated the sun godhead, letting his body bloom with infinite light and releasing the fire of the sun, and said with white wings stretched out from his back. Di Jun. There can only be one co-lord of the world in Kyushu. And there can only be one sun in the sky. From the time I come to Kyushu, I will become the only sun god in Kyushu. The era of the sun god Di Jun is over. Seeing that Roy was also the sun god, Di Jun showed a shocked expression. And then, like Roy, he transformed into a human boy with black wings on his back. There is only one sun in the sky. And there can only be one sun god in Kyushu. I agree with this sentence. Since you are the sun god like me, then one of us must disappear. Just when Roy and Di Jun were about to break out into a battle of gods, Nuwa suddenly appeared with the head of a human and the body of a snake, landing between Roy and Di Jun and said, Di Jun is mine. I want to defeat him and wash away the shame of losing to him before. How could the earth goddess defeat the sun god? Seeing that Nuwa wanted to challenge Di Jun again, Roy said helplessly, the sky god restrains the earth god in terms of attributes. Unless your people have a more advanced civilization and can carry out dimensionality reduction attacks on Emperor Jun's people. Under normal circumstances, it is absolutely impossible for you to defeat Emperor Jun. You're right. Di Jun also looked at Nuwa with contempt and said, this is a war between our sun gods. Don't overestimate your capabilities as a mere earth goddess. Then, Di Jun suggested to Roy, let's move the battlefield to the sky. After saying that, Di Jun first flew tens of thousands of meters into the sky. After Roy chased Di Jun and flew to the sky, Nuwa could only grit her teeth and look up at the sky from the ground. If I had wings too. Tens of thousands of meters in the sky. Roy and Di Jun faced off under the sun. Because both sides are sun gods, Roy and Di Jun's attack methods are exactly the same. If you want to decide the winner, all you have to do is see which side has more powerful power. You're the last one, Roy said with an excited smile. As long as I defeat you and annex you, I will be the only sun god in the world. Di Jun said with a cold face. That means that as long as I defeat you, I can also become the only sun god in the world. It seems that I need to use all my strength to defeat you. After Di Jun finished speaking, a sound of horses neighing and chariots galloping came from the far north. Immediately afterwards, a goddess with a moon wheel appearing behind her came to Di Jun in a chariot. 11. Seeing the moon goddess, Di Jun said with a gentle smile on his face. Although I don't want to admit it, this guy is indeed my strong enemy. Can you give me a helping hand? Chapter 6:19 Fox Lady Sai and Moon Goddess Sai. The moon goddess Chang, she stepped off the chariot, came to Di Jun with a sweet smile and said, You and I are one husband and wife. And your enemy is my enemy. When the sun and the moon stand together, they are no longer the sun and the moon, but one clear word. Di Jun and Chang, she stood together, and their divine powers merged with each other, giving Roy a bad premonition. The classic of mountains and seas says there is a country of women and the moon mother. Some people call it. In the north it is called. And when the wind comes, it is called. It is located in the northeast corner to stop the sun and moon, so that they can appear and disappear intermittently, and control their short and long directions. The daughter and the moon mother are Chang Shi, among the Tory tribe who regard the sun god as the supreme god. Di Jun is not only the sun god, but also the ancestor of men and the head of the male gods. Chang Shi is not only the moon goddess, but also the ancestor of women and the head of the goddesses. The most important thing is, there is a country of women and moon mother. If this sentence means that there is a nation of ethnic groups that worship the moon goddess Chang Shi, then Chang Shi does not exist as a vassal of the sun god Emperor Jun, but a powerful deity that exists alone. It's unfair for you two to beat me up. After Roy complained with a wry smile, Di Jun said proudly, You can also summon your wife. Roy shook his head and said, They are too far away from here. And I don't want this war to turn into an invasion of the Chinese continent by foreign gods. Then be prepared to face failure. After Di Jun finished speaking, Di Jun and Chang Shi turned into a sun with a diameter of 1 kilometer, and a moon with a diameter of 1 kilometer. And then the sun and the moon rolled towards Roy together. Roy, who chose to fight head-on, also turned into a sun with a diameter of 1 kilometer. Bang! The sun and moon transformed by Di Jun and Chang Shi collided with the sun transformed by Roy. In a one-on-one situation, Roy's supernatural power is far superior to that of Di Jun and Chang Shi. But in a one-on-two situation, Roy was pushed back by the power of Di Jun and Chang Shi. On the battlefield outside Hao City, Nuwa looked up at the sky and sneered as she watched Roy fighting Di Jun and Chang Shi. Although I can't interfere in the battles of you sky gods, I can interfere in the wars of humans. After saying this, Nuwa spread her divine power to the Athenian soldiers on the battlefield. Affected by Nuwa's divine power, the Athenian soldiers all doubled in strength and defeated the Shang soldiers even more powerfully. At this moment, a small moon with a diameter of 100 meters appeared over Haocheng. Immediately afterwards, the little moon turned into a goddess in white clothes and descended from the sky. Hengyi. Nuwa is obviously no stranger to this moon goddess. I take my mother's surname. You should call me Chang'e. The moon goddess landed in front of Nuwa and said expressionlessly, You actually intervened in this war when the Shang soldiers had no protection from the gods. Is this the magnanimity of the earth goddess? What a sharp-tongued little girl. Nuwa said with a sneer. War is war. And kindness to the enemy is cruelty to oneself. When Xie Ji defeated Cheng Tang, I also defeated your father Di Jun. Xie Ji was kind and did not kill Cheng Tang, but also released Cheng Tang so that he could get it. Freedom. I did not seize the opportunity to seriously injure Di Jun. As a result, Tang Ian took revenge and launched another rebellion, causing Xie Ji to lose everything. I was also defeated by Di Jun and Chang Shi together, and lost the throne of the Queen of the Gods of Kyushu. Now I will fight for victory. Do whatever it takes to never repeat the mistakes of failure again. Chang Yi's name was first seen in the Gua Shu Guizang of the Shang dynasty. Shanhai Jing Times Da Huang Shijing records that there was a woman who was bathing in the moon. And the emperor's handsome wife Chang, she was born on the 12th day of the lunar month. So she began to bathe. There is always only one sun and moon. Therefore, the myth that Chang Shi gave birth to 10 suns and 12 moons obviously cannot be taken seriously. Because Chang Shi and Chang Yi are both moon goddesses. Chang Shi is also considered to be Chang Yi's past life. But the earliest record of Chang Yi is that she took the elixir and became the moon god. In other words, Chang Yi was originally a human being. If Chang Yi, like Tushan's Nuwa, is the moon goddess who was deified after death and became a subordinate god of Chang Shi, then Chang Yi and Chang Shi can exist at the same time. The Western Han Dynasty, Huainanzi Times Lanming Xuan, added the element of Yi into the myth of Chang Yi. Yi asked the Queen Mother of the West for the elixir of immortality. And Chang Yi stole it and flew to the moon. She felt sad and could not continue. Why? I don't know where the medicine of immortality comes from. At the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty, Gao Yu's annotation, Huainanzi, pointed out that Chang Yi was Yi's wife Chang Yi. Yi's wife. Yi asked the Queen Mother of the West for the elixir of immortality. But before she could take it, Chang Yi stole it and ate it. She became an immortal and ran into the middle of the moon, becoming the moon spirit. During the Han Dynasty, Chang Yi had a relationship with Hu Yi and eventually became Hu Yi's wife. It is now the end of the Xia dynasty. More than 1,000 years since the Han Dynasty. So now Chang Yi is not Hu Yi's wife, but an unmarried goddess, facing Nuwa, who was more powerful than herself. Chang Yi said neither humble nor overbearing. I want to replace Father God and Mother God to protect their people and prevent you from interfering in this war. Just you. Nuwa mocked disdainfully. You were originally just a human. But you really thought of yourself as the daughter of Emperor Jun and Chang Shi. You thought you could fight against real gods. Your opponent should not be me, but my subordinate god Nuwa of Tushan clan. After saying that, Nuwa looked at Xia Yi. Under Nuwa's gaze, Xia Yi's body turned into a nine-tailed fox girl uncontrollably, and then flew in front of Chang Yi involuntarily. Sai, just compete with this Chang Yi. After giving orders to Xia Yi, Nuwa continued to spread her magical power. Xia Yi and Chang Yi looked at each other and said with some lack of confidence, "Are you the goddess Chang Yi?" "I am Sai, the daughter of Xia Hojie. Now the magical power of my ancestor Nuwa of the Tushan clan resides in me. So the goddess Nuwa will let me fight with you. Just do it." Chang Yi urged with her eyebrows furrowed. "I want to defeat you and stop Nuwa." Then, Xia Yi Sai and Chang Yi started the pattern of pecking each other. When Xia Yi and Chang Yi fought back and forth, the Athenian army completely defeated the Shang army. After the Shang army fled, the Athenian army rushed towards the 10,000-strong coalition composed of the followers of the 3,000 princes. The commander of the accompanying coalition forces immediately shouted, "We are not enemies of the Xia kingdom. In the war between the Xia kingdom and the Shang kingdom, we remain neutral. Don't come over." Hearing these words, Shang Tang on the wall of Haoqing vomited blood in anger. The princes of the world originally respected Shang as the common master of the world. Now seeing that the remnants of the Xia kingdom defeated the Shang army, these princes not only had no idea of using force to defend the Shang dynasty, but also wanted to remain neutral between Xia and Shang. Now Shang Tang finally understood how Xia Ji felt in his heart when he attacked Shang Tang, when he was the co-lord of the world and the princes of the world remained neutral between Xia and Shang. Unfortunately, the Athenian army did not know that the accompanying coalition forces were not Shang soldiers. So the Athenian army attacked the unresisting coalition forces without hesitation. When the Athenian army began to attack Haoqing, Shang Tang was forced to escape from Haoqing with his family and Shang nobles. In the Battle of Haoqing, the Athenian army set a record of 1,500 men, easily defeating an army of 20,000. After the news spread, the princes in the world were shocked. When Xia Ji from Haiyang City heard the news, he cried and laughed as if he was in a daze. Chapter 620 The New Sun God and the New Moon God. As the Sun God who replaced the Earth Goddess Nuwa as the king of the gods in the Chinese continent, there is no doubt about the power of Di Jun. Even Roy was at a disadvantage when faced with the alliance between Sun God Emperor Jun and Moon God Heshi. But that didn't last forever. As the Athenian army captured Haoqing, the capital of Shang, Emperor Jun's divine power began to weaken rapidly like water without roots. Roy also reversed the unfavorable battle situation, and began to suppress the sun god Emperor Jun and the moon god Heng Shi. In the sky, Roy released endless solar fire to wrap around Di Jun and Heng Shi. While burning Di Jun and Heng Shi with the fire of the sun, Roy said to Di Jun with some regret, "What a pity. If I had come here thousands of years earlier, maybe we wouldn't have to fight to the death like we are now. After all, although I won't accept the Eastern Emperor Tai Emperor Jun, I will happily accept the sun goddess Shi and..." The name of Shihe was first found in The Classic of Mountains and Seas Times Great Wilderness South Classic, Beyond the Southeast China Sea. Between the sweet waters, there was the country of Shihe. There was a woman named Shihe, who was bathing in Ganyuan. Shihe was the wife of Emperor Jun, and was 10 days old. Just like Heng, she is the moon goddess, who gave birth to 12 moons. Shihe is also the sun goddess, who gave birth to 10 suns. In the ancient Three Emperors era, the Tory tribe was still a matriarchal clan. And the sun god and moon god they worshipped were both goddesses. In the age of 5 emperors, the Niue people entered a patrilineal clan mode. And the sun god Emperor Junsai replaced the sun goddess Shihe. Guo Piyu of the Eastern Jin dynasty believed that Shihe was the first to create heaven and earth. And he was the one who controlled the sun and moon. Therefore Guizhang Times Qijun said, "The sky is full of mulberry. And the 8 poles are spread out. And there is Shihe, who is the master of the sun and the moon. And their duties are in and out. So it is dim and bright." He also said, looking up to the sky, "One is bright and the other is dim. There is an official called Shihe, who is in charge of the 4 seasons. This will be the country in later generations. Palm it as the image of the sun and moon. Bathe and move it in the sweet water, so that it can go in and out of Yanggu and Yuyuan." The meaning of this passage is that Shihe was the mother of the sun and the wife of Emperor Jun. She gave birth to 10 suns hanging on the hibiscus trees. Her mother arranged for them to patrol the sky and form dim light in the morning and evening. The ancestors' view of time may have come from the movement of the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. There is also a view that Shihe, the mother of the sun, is Heshi, the mother of the moon. There is certainly nothing wrong with that. After all, moon god worship often originates from sun worship. So the moon god is regarded as a vassal of the sun god. In the case where the sun god and the moon god are both goddesses or male gods, the moon god can be regarded as the clone of the sun god. After hearing Roy's words, Di Jun said with a cold face, "You are so eager to get Shihe. Then let me send you to the embrace of the mother of the world. Maybe you can meet the sun goddess Shihe when you get there." "I reject." Roy smiled without hesitation. "I have never met Shihe. How could I die for Shihe? There is only one sun god who has fallen today. And that is you. Donghuang Tai." After speaking, Roy released more powerful divine power, urging the fire of the sun to burn Di Jun's body. It is by no means an easy task for Roy to eliminate Di Jun and Heng Shi at the same time. But Roy's only target to eliminate was Di Jun. Di Jun's divine power was already weaker than Roy's. Under the burning of the sun fire released by Roy, Di Jun's body finally began to annihilate and disappear. Not only did the moon god Heng Shi not leave Di Jun's side, but he also threw himself into Di Jun's arms and endured the burning of the sun's fire with Di Jun. 11. Why are you doing this? Seeing that Heng Shi wanted to be buried for him, Di Jun said helplessly, "You know, I don't want you to do this at all. I am your wife." Heng Shi said with a happy smile, "A new sun should be accompanied by a new moon. No matter where you go, I will be by your side." After saying that, Heng Shi's moon godhead left her body with most of her divine power and flew towards Heng Yi, who was fighting the 9-tailed fox girl Shui on the ground. The only target Roy wants to destroy with his solar fire is Di Jun. If Heng Shi did not give up most of her divine power, the remaining power of the sun's fire would not be able to destroy her. Over Haocheng, the battle between the 9-tailed fox girl Shui and the moon god Chang'e continues. Shui's magical power comes from Tushan's Nuwa, who became a god after death. Chang'e herself is also the moon goddess deified by humans. Therefore, the battle between Shui and Chang'e was half a catty versus 8 ounces. And neither one had the upper hand. Sudden, Heng Shi's moon godhead descended from the sky and rushed into Heng Yi's body. After obtaining Heng Shi's moon godhead and most of his divine power, Chang'e's body bloomed with dazzling brilliance. And her divine power level also increased rapidly. Heng Yi was not happy because she inherited Heng Shi's moon godhead and most of her divine power. Instead, she looked at the sky with sadness and tears. Father God, Mother God. Of course Di Jun and Heng Shi are not Chang Yi's real parents. But their care for Chang Yi was not inferior to that of real parents. So Chang Yi always regarded them as her real parents. At this time, Heng Yi inherited Heng Shi's divine personality and power. And she knew very well what this meant. In the sky, Roy finally completely eliminated Di Jun Heng Shi, who voluntarily gave up the moon godhead and most of his divine power. Was also burned by the sun's fire on Di Jun's body. I didn't expect that there would be this kind of love between gods and goddesses. After uttering this sigh, Roy absorbed Di Jun's sun godhead and returned to the ground. At this time, the battle between Xie Yi and Chang Yi had stopped. Roy landed between the two of them and saw that Heng Yi had inherited Heng Shi's divinity. Roy said with a smile, "The new sun god should be accompanied by a new moon god. Heng Yi, I have replaced Di Jun as the sun god of Kyushu. You should follow the example of Heng Shi and be my wife." "You're dreaming." Chang Yi glared at Roy angrily and said, "You killed my father god and mother god. And you still want me to commit myself to you. You don't want to." Roy held Chang Yi's cute little chin with his right hand, admiring the flawless little face of the most beautiful woman in the three worlds, and said, "I won't force you. Since you don't want to. I only want your body. Not your heart." Snort. Chang Yi snorted coldly. The expression on her face seemed to say, "I will never give in." Roy didn't waste any time and took Xie Yi and Chang Yi directly into Hao City. At this time, this commercial capital became Roy's trophy. Roy unceremoniously took Qingtang's palace as his own. That night, Luoi slept with Xie Yi and Chang Yi. The next morning, Chang Yi served Roy like an attentive wife, completely losing her attitude of treating Roy as an enemy yesterday. Roy and Chang Yi are both gods, and they have incredible senses of their own changes. Chang Yi had such a huge change because after Roy wore Chang Yi to sleep, Chang Yi found out that she and Roy had a child. Now Roy's identity is not only the enemy who killed Di Jun and Heng Shi, but also the father of the child. Although Chang Yi didn't want to give in to Roy, she was willing to give in for her child. So in order to let her children have complete father's and mother's love, Chang Yi changed her mind and decided to become Roy's wife. Haoqing Palace. Throne Hall. Holding Xie Yi and Chang Yi in his arms and sitting on the throne that originally belonged to Cheng Tang, Roy teased Chang Yi, who was in love with the little bird. "Dear Chang Yi, didn't you say you wouldn't commit yourself to me?" Chang Yi rolled her eyes and said, "Don't be proud. I'm not doing this for you." Chapter 621 The Three Supreme Gods of Kyushu. Roy has no plans to mobilize troops from other regions to China mainland. Because the Chinese continent is so big. Even if Roy mobilizes 100,000 troops, it will be a drop in the bucket to rule the Chinese continent. The only way Roy wanted to conquer the Chinese continent was to assimilate the locals of the Chinese continent into Athenians. It's obviously not too difficult to do this. Although Roy's policy was to eliminate the princes and nobles, there was no shortage of Fang countries and tribes who became slaves after defeat in the mainland of China. For example, the Wei, Kunwu, Shun, and three kingdoms who supported Xie Ji in the Xishang War were destroyed by Cheng Tang. These vassal states were annexed by Shang. Their nobles became human sacrifices of Shang state. And the common people became slaves of Shang state. In Haoqing, the capital of Shang, there were tens of thousands of slaves from Wei, Kunwu, Shun, and the three kingdoms. After Roy's army occupied Hao City, they converted all the slaves in the city into Chinese people and immediately gained the support of tens of thousands of people. As for Roy's policy of eliminating princes and nobles, what does this have to do with slaves? Do slaves like to exploit the princes and nobles who enslave them? When Luoi distributed land in Haoqing and cancelled taxes, even the common people of the Shang kingdom began to support Luoi's rule. After all, although the princes and nobles were of the same race as them, they did not allow them to live a better life. Could it be that because the princes and nobles are of the same race, the common people will support the rule and enslavement of the princes and nobles? This is obviously impossible. After recruiting 5,000 soldiers in Haoqing, Luoi began to occupy the Yuzhou area. Yuzhou is a large central state. Even if the towns in Yuzhou were not directly under the Xia royal family, they were still ruled by princes who supported the Xia kingdom. Roy conquered Yuzhou and could eliminate the princes and nobles of Yuzhou without any scruples. Because after the war between Xia and Shang, all the princes and nobles who supported Xia Ji had been eliminated by Cheng Tang. The remaining princes and nobles had obviously betrayed Xia Ji. As Shiji's son-in-law, Luoi had the right to eliminate the princes and nobles who betrayed Shiji. 1594 BC. July. Yangzhou and Yuzhou were all included in the territory of the Athenian Empire. Jizhou, Yangzhou, Qingzhou, Xuzhou, Yangzhou, Jingzhou, Yuzhou, Liangzhou, Yongzhou. A quarter of the world of Kyushu has belonged to Roy. Among the remaining 7 states, Xuzhou, Qingzhou, Yangzhou, and Jizhou belong to the Tui ethnic group, who worship the sun god Emperor Jun. The Tori tribe is dominated by 9 large tribes, and they are called the Juyi tribe. When Huyi ruled Yuzhou, he attacked the Niaoyi people, so he was called Yishijuri. Jingzhou and Liangzhou, Sichuan, belong to the southern ethnic groups, who worship the earth goddess Nuwa. Yongzhou belongs to the Rongdi ethnic group, who worship the Emperor Yuan Shi. Shichi and Shishan are located in Yongzhou. In the pre-Qin era, the people from all directions in Kyushu were divided into 4 major ethnic groups. The people in the east are called barbarians, and they are given tattoos. There are those who eat without fire. The people in the south are called barbarians, and there are those who eat without fire. The people in the west are called Rong, and they are given clothes and skins. And there are those who do not eat grains. The north is called Di, where people live in clothes and feathers. And there are those who do not eat grains. It was Dongli who worshipped the sun god Emperor Jun. So the sun god Emperor Jun was also called Donghuang Tai. During the Warring States period, King Qi was once known as the Eastern Emperor because the name, Eastern Emperor, existed in ancient times. It is the Nan man who worship the earth goddess. In another world, it is no accident that the descendants of the mythical Nuwa come from the south. Among the 9 states, Yongzhou is both in the west and in the north. So Shirong and Beidi are collectively called Rongdi. Rong Di worship the Emperor Yuan Shi. Sun god Emperor Jun and Yuan Shi Qianwang are both gods who rule the north. And they are both gods of the sky attribute. The earth goddess who rules the south is a deity with earth attributes. It is clear that Emperor Jun and Yuan Shi Qianwang are more ancient local deities. About 10,000 years ago, a group of people who worship the earth goddess came to the south of the Chinese mainland with the civilization and technology of the Neolithic age, and gradually expanded their territory. After thousands of years of development, the Nanman people, who worship the earth goddess, ruled the south. After the southern barbarians, who worship the earth goddess, entered the Bronze Age, they also entered Yongzhou to rule the north and established the Xia dynasty. In this process, Dongla took the lead in absorbing the civilization of the Bronze Age and had enough military power to fight against the southern barbarians. So the sun god Emperor Jun challenged Nuwa, the queen of the gods, and drove Nuwa back to the south. 600 years later, Rong Di in the west, the Western Zhou dynasty destroyed the Shang dynasty, and the Yuan Shi heavenly king replaced Emperor Jun as the supreme god. The Xia dynasty was a country that worshipped the earth goddess, and the Xia royal family claimed to be descendants of the earth goddess. Therefore, the king of the Xia dynasty used the word Hu, which symbolizes a woman, to represent the ruler, and called the king the queen of Xia. The Shang dynasty was a country that worshipped Emperor Jun, the sun god. The Shang royal family claimed to be the descendants of the sun god. Therefore, the king of the Shang state used the word emperor, which symbolizes wearing a crown, to represent the ruler, and gave the king the title of emperor. The Zhou dynasty was a country that worshipped the Yuan Shi heavenly king. But the Zhou royal family did not claim to be descendants of the Yuan Shi heavenly king. Therefore, the king of Zhou claimed to be the emperor, but he only received orders from heaven. The difference between them, simply put, is the rulers of Xia and Shang were direct descendants of the king of the gods and therefore had authority over other gods. Even if the gods are in front of them, they must bow their heads. The rulers of the Zhou kingdom were not the direct descendants of the king of the gods, Yuan Shi Qianwang, but the co-lord of the world who was born by destiny. Therefore, the emperor of Zhou was only a human being and did not have the authority of Queen Xia and Emperor Shang to command the gods. In another world, Hao Tian, Yuan Shi Tianzuan, and Jade Emperor, all Taoist great gods that symbolize heaven, are actually the incarnations of Yuan Shi Tianzuan. During the Eastern Jin dynasty, Zhong Daoling founded Taoism and deified Laozi as Taishang Lao Jun and regarded him as the ancestor of Taoism. Too much means big. The one who is superior is respected. No one should be the first to be noble, and all saints will respect him. Therefore, He is called Taishang Laojun. Old man means longevity. Ming Laojun cultivates heaven and earth, and naturally lives a long life. So he is called Old Man. The king is honored by his title, and his moral integrity is extremely pure. So he is called the king. Ming Laojun is the ancestor of all saints and the ancestor of the true gods. All things are controlled by Laojun. So they are the ancestors. The meaning of Taishang Laojun is the supreme spirit that is supreme, prior to heaven and earth, and transcending life and death. At that time, there was no name for Yuanshi. It was not until the northern and southern dynasties hundreds of years later that King Yuanshi entered the Taoist system as Yuanshi Qianzuan and replaced Taishang Laojun as the supreme god. Taishang Laojun has been developing for hundreds of years, but within his own Taoism. He is no match for the Yuanshi Qianzuan who descended from the air. It can be seen that outside Taoism, heaven symbolized by Yuanshi Qianzuan is widely worshipped. After all, around 1000 BC, though heaven symbolized by the Yuanshi heavenly king was already regarded as the supreme god. About 500 years later, Li Er, the prototype of Taishang Laojun, invented the theory of Tao. 1200 years later, Zhong Daoling founded Taoism. It is normal for Taishang Laojun to be unable to defeat Yuanshi Qianzuan even within Taoism. In the mainland of China, in addition to the three supreme gods, Nuwa, the goddess of the earth, Emperor Zheng, the sun god, and King Yuanshi, there are of course other gods. But these weak gods are not qualified to be Roy's enemies. After annihilating sun god Emperor Zheng, Roy's eyes naturally looked to the west. Although the Yuanshi heavenly king rose up 600 years later, he is now qualified to become Loi's enemy. Loi personally delivered this god who symbolizes heaven to the embrace of the mother of the world. Chapter 622 Haotian God and Yuanshi Heavenly King. Haiyang City. Precious materials worth as much as gold, including salt, ironware, and spices, are being continuously transported by sea to the port of Haiyang City, and then transferred to Yangzhou and Yuzhou under the rule of the Athens Empire. These supplies not only became Roy's salary for recruiting and supporting local soldiers, but also quickly improved the lives of local people, allowing the Athenian Empire to gain the support of Yangzhou and Yuzhou people in the shortest possible time. After all, everything is afraid of comparison. Comparing it with the original period of rule by princes and nobles, the people of Yangzhou and Yuzhou have no reason not to support the Athenian Empire, seeing that under the rule of the Athenian Empire, the common people in Yangzhou and Yuzhou had a quality of life that was not inferior to that of the nobles or even small princes. Some princes and nobles in Jingzhou and Liangzhou were even willing to give up their identities and power in exchange for their people. Enjoy equal treatment. Of course, Roy would not refuse these princes and nobles who voluntarily gave up their status and power in order to buy horse bones for thousands of dollars. Roy also arranged for them to become businessmen so that they could continue to enjoy a life without worries about food and clothing. 1594 BC. August. In addition to Yangzhou and Yuzhou, half of Jingzhou and Liangzhou also became the territory of the Athenian Empire. The Athenian Empire recruited tens of thousands of soldiers in Yuzhou, after handing 6,000 soldiers to Xia Yi and letting Xia Yi conquer the Donga tribes in Xuzhou, Qingzhou, Yangzhou and Xingzhou. Luoi led 4,000 troops to Yongzhou, preparing to conquer the Rongdi tribe, and let the Emperor Yuanshi Qianwang, Qianzuan times Haotian, completely disappeared from Kyushu. Archaeological discoveries from another world show that agricultural civilization developed greatly during the Xia dynasty. Among the production tools unearthed from the Erlitou cultural site, the tools used by the Xia dynasty people were mainly stone tools. Bone horn tools and clam tools are also still in use. There are wooden rakes used for digging earth on the walls of some house foundations, ash pits and tombs. Trace. As the center of Kyushu, Xia kingdom has not completely entered the Bronze Age. At this time, the Yongzhou Rongdi, whose civilization was backward, was naturally at the level of the Neolithic Age. The weapons used by tribal soldiers were mainly stone and wooden, and only the princes and nobles used bronze weapons. Roy led Athenian soldiers, who used iron weapons to carry out a dimensionality reduction attack on the Rongdi tribe in Yongzhou. The outcome of the war was already doomed before it even started. The only problem is how to assimilate Rongdi. Unlike the Nan Man and Donga people, who entered the agricultural civilization, the northwest Rongdi were still backward nomadic tribes. How to transform the Rongdi tribe from a nomadic people into a farming people is the first problem that Roy needs to face. Chishan. Yongju. Chishan Mountain was called Shichi in ancient times. It is a remnant of Qianshan Mountains. It is the place where Emperor Yang lived and where the Zhou dynasty was founded. Mandarin Times Zhouyu records when Zhou was prosperous. The phoenix sang in Chishan. The Zhou tribe is an ancient tribe living in the present-day Lurs Plateau and the Weishui River Basin. According to legend, the surname Ji was derived from Jishui. 600 years later, Ji became the co-lord of the world. And the surname Ji became the most common surname in the world. The 5 emperors followed suit and changed their surname to Ji. For example, Gongsun Zhuanyuan of the Yellow Emperor was originally named Gongsun. Because Ji Zhu conquered the world, the Yellow Emperor became Ji Zhuanyuan. For example, as the founder of the Shang Kingdom, Emperor Zhun should have had the same surname as the Shang royal family. However, like Huang Di, he changed his surname to Ji Zhun of Ji Zhu. Among the 5 emperors Taihao, Yendi, Huangdi, Xiaohao, and Zhuanshu from the Lu's spring and autumn period, only Taihao and Yendi were not changed to Ji. This is because Taihao and Emperor Yang are not only among the 5 emperors. They are also the Emperor of Heaven, Yuanshi Heavenly King, Haotian and Shennong among the 3 emperors. Of course, there is also a version where the 3 emperors were changed their surname to Ji. For example, Suiren's surname was changed to Ji and his given name was Ji Sui. Fushi's surname was also changed to Ji and his given name was Shi. Emperor Yang was also changed his surname to Ji and his given name was Nian. Seeing that most of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors were surnamed Ji, some people believe that from ancient times until King Wu of Zhou divided the princes and reclassified surnames, all the people who ruled the world except for a few women were surnamed Ji. In fact, this is a typical case of treating the effect as the cause. It was Ji Zhu who dominated the 9 provinces that led to the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors having their surnames changed. Taihao of the Lu's spring and autumn period is not only the most powerful of the 3 emperors, but also the most powerful of the 5 emperors. This is because this emperor, Yuanshi Heavenly King, and God Haotian are the gods worshipped by the Ji Zhu and Rong Di tribes. Emperor Yang is the second Dehuang clan among the 3 emperors and the second among the 5 emperors. Because the Yendi tribe is not the Rongdi tribe, Luo Shulingzhuan records the Emperor of the Earth. The 11 kings all have the face of a woman, the face of a dragon, the body of a horse, and the body of a snake. Shuoan, barbarian, southern barbarian. Snake species. Also said Fujian, Southeast Yu. Snake species. Shangbo slips Rong Chengshi, Yu then began to flag him to distinguish his left and right. Thinking about the people's mother's confusion. The flag of the east is the sun. The flag of the west is the moon. The flag of the south is the snake. The flag of Zhongjing is the bear. And the flag of the north is the bird. The Yendi tribe existed in the Neolithic age 5000 BC to 3000 BC. The Yendi tribe was active at the junction of Yuzhou and Yongju. Perhaps it was the Yendi tribe who taught the Rongdi tribe advanced technologies, including fire making. The 11 emperors of the Dehuang clan all have female faces, which shows that the Yendi tribe is a matrilineal clan. The Dehuang clan's dragon head, horse heel, and snake body are because the Yendi tribe worships the earth goddess. Nanman and Southeast Yu are both snake species, which means that Liangzhu, Jingzhu, and Yangzhou south of the Yangtze River all worship the earth goddess. The eastern flag uses the sun as its totem because the Donga tribe worships the sun god. The flag of the north uses a bird as a totem. This bird may be the blackbird and golden crow that symbolizes the sun god emperor. Or it may symbolize the Emperor Taihao and Yuanshi Qianwang. The flag of the south has a snake as its totem, which is naturally the earth goddess who rules the south. The flag of the west uses the moon as its totem, which is a bit difficult to interpret. In the myth of Chang'e flying to the moon, Chang'e took the elixir of the Queen Mother of the West and became the moon god. This moon in the west may be the goddess of earth in the southwest and the god of the moon. Or it may symbolize the Emperor Taihao and the king of Yuanshi. The flag of Zhongjing uses the bear as a totem, which symbolizes the common master of the world. Because the Zhong clan is the title of the Yellow Emperor's tribe, Roy came to Chishan with an army of 4,000, and finally encountered a coalition of 10,000 troops from the Rongdi tribe on the plain north of Chishan. Although the Rongdi coalition had a numerical advantage, the 2 or 3 times numerical advantage obviously could not make up for the strength gap between between the stone army and the iron army. Therefore, the god of the Rongdi tribe, Yuan Shi Qianwang Taihao, the patron saint who symbolizes heaven, came to the battlefield before the two armies fought. In another world, Taihao, the first heavenly king, is the unquestionable supreme god. Emperor Taihao is God Haotian. His honorific title first appeared in the Shang dynasty, and the title Haotian God officially appeared in the Zhou dynasty. Surrounded by the sun, moon, stars, wind and rain, thunder and lightning serve as messengers, and the gods of the five directions assist. The emperor of heaven in the Shang kingdom was the sun god, Emperor Zhun, who used the power of the sun to dominate all living things. The gods of heaven and earth. In order to defeat the Shang kingdom, the Western Zhou dynasty made the god Haotian the heaven who controlled the sun, moon, stars, wind, rain, thunder and lightning. In the myths fabricated by Taoism, before the chaos opened, there was a spirit of heaven and earth, named Yuan Shi Qianwang, swimming in it. After the two rites were separated, the heavenly king of Yuan Shi lived in the center of the sky, looking up to absorb the weather and drinking from the spring on the ground. Shibao Mountain in Yujing, Xuanju, is above Deluo and has three palaces, upper, middle and lower. The upper palace is ruled by Pangu Zhenren, the Yuanshi heavenly king, and Taiyuan Our Lady. The first heavenly king of the Yuan dynasty was Pangu, who created the world. By the time of the southern dynasties, King Yuanshi had the title Yuanshi Qianzuan. Chapter 623 Who can be the first wife? The plain north of Chishan Mountain. The Athenian army and the Rongdi coalition were preparing to fight, and Roy and Emperor Taihao also faced off. Emperor Taihao became Yuanshi Qianwang Yuanshi Qianzuan more than 1,000 years later. Therefore, the current Emperor Taihao is just the Haotian god who symbolizes the sky. His name comes from the ancestors of the Rongdi tribe, but at his core he is the sky god. Just like the name Donghuang Tai comes from the ancestor of the Shang tribe, Emperor Zhun. But the core of Donghuang Tai is the sun god. What a pity. Looking at Emperor Taihao, who looked like a nomadic god, Roy said with regret, "You in front of me are neither the Yuanshi heavenly king, Yuanshi Qianzuan times Pangu, 2,000 years later, nor the Haotian god 600 years later. How weak is the Rongdi tribe now? You, the Emperor Taihao, the strength is only as weak as it is. If the strength of the gods was not determined by the strength of the group that worships them, you would have competed with the earth goddess Nuwa and the sun god Di Jun for the throne of the king of the gods." It was indeed a pity for Roy that he could not fight Yuan Shi Qianzuan and Emperor Taihao in Pangu form. But Roy will not let Emperor Taihao continue to exist just to make up for this regret. "You sound like you know me very well." Emperor Taihao looked at Roy with a solemn expression and said, "I have no intention of competing with you for the throne of the co-owner of the world. Even if I surrender to you, it is not impossible. I heard that you not only accepted Nuwa, but also the daughters of Emperor Zhun and Shiha. As long as dash. How stupid. Haven't you seen it yet? I will accept Nuwa and Chang'e because they are both goddesses. As a male god, if you don't want to be eliminated by me, you have no choice but to leave the territory of the Athens Empire." After saying that, Roy stretched out his right hand and released endless solar fire towards Emperor Taihao. The battle between Roy and Emperor Taihao began, and the war between humans also broke out at the same time. The Athenian soldiers wearing iron armor and using sharp iron spears rushed like an unstoppable torrent towards the Jundii army, who used stone spears and wooden spears and wore civilian clothes. The armors of both sides collided, and the Rong and Di soldiers immediately fell one by one. The civilian clothes of the Rong Di soldiers were like paper, and could not withstand the sharp blades of guns to protect the Rong Di soldiers. The iron armor of the Athenian soldiers could block the attacks of stone and wooden spears. The war between the Athenian army and the Jurundi coalition was a one-sided crushing. The battle between Roy and Emperor Taihao, Yuanshi Qianzuan times Pangu, was also one-sided. Burned by Roy's sun fire, the body of Emperor Taihao, Yuanshi Qianzuan times Pangu, gradually turned into ashes. Just before Emperor Taihao was about to disappear, Emperor Taihao suddenly burst out with all his divine power and smashed the stone axe in his hand Pangu Kaiqian god axe at Roy. The next moment, Roy used the palm of his left hand to block the blade of Pangu's Kaiqian god axe. Is this the power of Pangu to create the world? The blade of the Kaiqian god axe did not cause any damage to Roy's palm. Roy said a little disappointed. This level of power cannot create the world. But having said that, Pangu's creation of the world was originally a late myth born 1,800 years later. Even if Pangu is set as the god who created the world, it does not mean that Pangu really created the world. Power. After all, fictional settings are just fictional settings, and will not have the slightest impact on reality and history. After speaking, Roy took hold of his left hand and crushed the Kaiqian divine axe. As the Kaiqian divine axe disappeared, Emperor Taihao also completely perished in the flames of the sun's fire. The war between humans also determines the winner at this time. The Jundiai coalition collapsed completely, either fleeing in panic and leaving the battlefield, or kneeling on the ground and surrendering to the Athenian soldiers. This battle laid the foundation for the Athenian Empire to incorporate the entire Kyushu into its territory. However, it is obvious that the assimilation of the people of Kyushu cannot be completed overnight. 1594 BC. September. Roy left the matter of conquering and assimilating Kyushu entirely to Shii, and then returned to the city of Athens alone. Acropolis. Roy teleported to the top of his temple and found that there were several goddesses in the city of Athens. Alina, Selene, Metis, Hera, Persephone, Mnemosyne, Amphitrite, Aphrodite, Sekhmet, Inanna, Ikochu. The powerful goddesses of the Athenian Empire have gathered in the city of Athens. Is this a meeting of the gods? Just when Roy was full of doubts, Alina suddenly appeared in front of Roy, jumped over to hug Roy with joy and said, "My dear, you are finally back." Alina. Seeing Selene appear with Alina, Roy asked with confusion, "Why are you in Athens? Have you been waiting for me here?" "I'm waiting for you to marry me," Alina explained shyly. During this period, the Libyan, Algerian, and Moroccan regions of North Africa have been included in the territory of the Athenian Empire by Night and Pandora. And the Mediterranean Sea has become the inland sea of the Athenian Empire. So according to our agreement, you should marry me. Libya, Algeria, and Morocco have a combined area of 5 million square kilometers. Lowy was not surprised that these areas would be conquered by Night and Pandora. The indigenous people in these areas originally worshipped the earth goddess. In Greek mythology from another world, Heracles came to Libya, and the enemy he encountered here was Antaeus, the son of the goddess of the earth. In other words, the Athenian Empire's conquest of Libya, Algeria, and Morocco would not change their beliefs. In addition, the Athenian Empire had advanced civilization and military power. The conquest of these areas by the Athenian Empire was a natural outcome. "Dear, I am getting married for the first time. How should we hold the wedding?" Looking at the shy and cute Alina, Roy said a little embarrassed. "As Phaethon, the sun god, this is also my first time getting married. So I don't know how to hold our wedding." At this moment, Metis, Hera, Persephone, Mnemosyne, Amphitrite, Aphrodite, Sekhmet, Inanna, and Iokotel appeared at the same time. Beside Roy and Alina, they looked at Roy with eager eyes. "Do you really want to marry her?" Metis gritted his teeth and glared at Roy. "The words you said you loved me were indeed lies." Hera also stared at Alina with murderous eyes and kept muttering, "Kill you, as long as I kill you. I can become his first wife." Although the other goddesses did not speak, Roy could also feel their dissatisfaction. After all, the first goddess to marry Roy will have a special status as Roy's first wife. Just when Roy didn't know how to appease these goddesses, Roy suddenly noticed the eyes from the ground. Roy lowered his head and saw Procne standing in the courtyard of the palace of Athens looking at Roy and the goddesses. Procne was the first wife of human Lowy, so she knew exactly what it meant to be Roy's first wife. After Roy and Procne looked into each other's eyes, he felt even greater pressure in his heart. Chapter 624 The premature death of the sun god Talos. It is obviously impossible to satisfy everyone. So Roy doesn't care what other people think. But Roy could not care about other people. But he could not care less about what the goddesses around him thought. After all, these goddesses will become Roy's wives and will accompany Roy for eternity in the future. My dears, just like I treat human beings equally, all human beings are equal in my eyes. You are also equal in my heart. So you don't need to care about who becomes my first wife. After Roy persuaded the goddesses earnestly, Hera immediately said, "In that case, let me be your number one wife. I have no special identity or status. I have no intention of bullying other goddesses. I just want to be your number one. Quetzalcoatl god Ecotel couldn't help but said. Although I'm not in love with you, I don't want to lose to others when it comes to getting married. Metis said directly. I want to be number one in everything. No matter how the times develop. Even if everyone has equal status and power, there will always be one person who takes the lead. So the specialness of being number one will never go away. Seeing that he could not convince the goddesses, Roy said helplessly. Then I have a proposal. We have a grand wedding. And all of you marry me together and become my first wife. Roy's clever suggestion was met with a roll of eyes from the goddesses. Alina said with a dissatisfied face. Dear, although I don't want to embarrass you, my becoming your first wife is your promise to me. So this must not change. Roy nodded immediately and said. I will definitely fulfill my promise. Metis said with a cold face. You said you loved me. Now is the time to prove whether you lied. Hera said with a crazy grin. Good brother. Why don't you let me kill them all? So that you won't feel embarrassed. I hope you sisters can love each other. Roy couldn't help but complain. And even if I agree, Sister Hera, you can't beat Alina and Metis. As long as you support me, I can defeat them all. Hera wanted to continue to seduce Roy. But Mnemosyne interrupted her. Make your choice quickly. Being hesitant will only bring torture and pain to everyone. If you continue to make decisions, you will suffer from chaos. If you hesitate in doing things, you will suffer from disasters. Roy's current situation is a true reflection of this sentence. After Roy and Amphitrite made eye contact, Amphitrite said with a gentle and sweet smile. Whatever you decide, we'll accept it. Persephone looked like he was hesitant to speak. Just like Roy, who was hesitant. Aphrodite smiled slyly. I can't be your first wife anyway. So you don't have to care about what I think. Sekhmet was like a self-admiring lioness, looking at Roy coldly and said. What I ask of you is like what a lioness asks of a male lion. As long as you can defend my territory and help me give birth to children, I won't care about anything else. Inanna looked like it had nothing to do with her. I'm just here to watch the show. What on earth are you going to do? I was so stupid. Looking at the goddesses around him, Roy suddenly said with a bright smile. Since it's impossible for me to satisfy you all from the beginning, I just need to make my own decision and let you obey my will. Now I have decided that starting from the first month of next year, I will make you will marry me in order. In January, Alina married me and had the power of first wife in January. Metis married me in February and had the power of first wife in February. In March, Mnemosyne married me and had the power of first wife in March. In April, Persephone married me and had the power of first wife in April. In May, Amphitrite married me and had the power of first wife in May. In June, Hera married me and had the power of first wife in June. In July, Selene married me and had the power of first wife in July. In August, Aphrodite married me and had the power of first wife in August. In September, Sekhmet married me and had the power of first wife in September. Inanna married me in October and had the power of first wife in October. In November, Ecotel married me and had the power of first wife in November. In December, Procne and Philomela married me, and in December had the power of first wife. I'm not asking for your opinion, but telling you my decision. If anyone is dissatisfied, I can let other goddesses take your place and become my first wife for a certain month of the year. Upon hearing Roy's decision, some of the goddesses showed dissatisfaction, while others showed helplessness. These goddesses can only be the first wives for 1 month out of a year, and it is natural that they will be dissatisfied. Although the goddesses were dissatisfied, they had no choice but to accept Roy's decision. After all, there were so many goddesses in the Athenian Empire. With the goddesses competing with each other, there will definitely be many goddesses willing to replace them and become Roy's first wife for a month. Of course, the goddesses compete with each other for Roy. But it is not that every goddess loves Roy deeply. It's just because Roy's first wife all owns more than 5 million square kilometers of territory. In other words, other goddesses who become Roy's first wife can also own a territory of more than 5 million square kilometers like them. After letting the goddesses accept their decision, Roy's figure fell from the sky. Royal Palace of Athens. The palace courtyard is filled with birdsong and flowers. Roy came to Procne, and Procne immediately jumped into Roy's arms excitedly. Brother Roy, you are finally back. Roy reached out to wipe away the tears on Prockney's face and asked while looking at her slender waist. Prockney. Where is our child? When Roy and Prockney separated 6 months ago, Prockney was already 6 months pregnant. Calculating the time, Roy and Prockney's child has been born for 2 or 3 months. Our child is in the palace, being taken care of by the palace maid. Prockney lowered her head in shame and said, Brother Roy, I couldn't give birth to a son for you. Roy said with a happy smile. I don't care whether the child is a boy or a girl. Take me to see my little daughter. Prockney's chamber. Seeing his daughter crawling around surrounded by the palace maids, Roy first picked her up, then lifted her high and said, The sun that shines on the 3 continents of Asia, Europe and Africa is born. My lovely little daughter. Your name is Talos. In some dialects, Talos means sun. There is a view that, influenced by the sun worship in Egypt, Crete not only has a moon goddess, but also a sun god named Talos. In the myth of Icarus, Icarus' father Daedalus murdered the young Talos because he was jealous of Talos' talent. So Talos is the sun that died young. Roy gave his eldest daughter the name Icarus, who flew towards the sun. Now he gave the name of Talos, the sun that died young, to his younger daughter. Chapter 625 Finale. In the myth of another world, the person with the name Phaethon was the one-day sun god who died in infancy. The person with the name Icarus is the premature sun god who flew towards the sun. The person who bears the name Talos is the sun god who died young and was murdered by his uncle. The name Icarus means flying to the sun. In Eastern mythology, Chang'e became the moon goddess because she flew to the moon. If Icarus did not fail and succeeded in flying to the sun, then Icarus would also be the sun god. The god names Roy gave himself and his 2 daughters were the sun gods who died young in another world. This is certainly not Roy cursing himself and his 2 daughters, causing the father and daughter to repeat the fate of the 3 sun gods who died young. But I hope that my 2 daughters can overcome the tragic fate that they are destined to do. 1593 BC. January. Roy held a wedding with Alina as promised. Weddings between gods are of course different from weddings between humans. The day of Roy and Alina's wedding, Roy and Alina flew together to the sky above the Aegean Sea in the form of gods with a height of 10,000 meters. In heaven and earth, with the witness of all the gods in heaven and earth, Roy and Alina overlapped in the sky like 2 small suns. Unlike Chang'e, who is a human deity, Alina is a true deity. When body and mind become one with Alina, as if opening the door to a new world, Roy's body and mind underwent a huge transformation, transforming into a true god. He established a connection with the great mother of the world and understood that he was the Athenian Empire, and even the mother of the gods of the entire world. King. With the mission of changing the entire world. Tens of thousands of meters in the sky. As Roy and Alina entered the state of 2-in-1. Endless divine power filled the sky and gradually condensed into the outline of the city. In the world of gods, the king of gods, who has many subordinate gods, can build his own temple. In the past, the kings of gods usually only had a territory of hundreds of thousands square kilometers. So they could only build temples the size of human palaces. Roy and Alina have a territory of tens of millions of square kilometers. So what Roy created is not a palace-sized temple, but a city-like city of the gods. After the city of the gods, which covers an area of thousands of square kilometers, was formed in the sky above the Aegean Sea, Roy and Alina also ended their 2-in-1 state. And they appeared together in the center of the city of the gods. Alina. This is the city of the gods that belongs to you and me. Roy said with a smile as he looked at Alina's city of gods imprinted with the attributes of the sun. As the first city of the gods in this world, how do you plan to manage your city? I don't know either. The city of the gods is not an enlarged version of the pantheon, but a completely different existence from the pantheon. Alina said a little confused. Perhaps we should have more children and let them become residents of the city of the gods and live with us in this eternal kingdom. Unlike the pantheon, which is just a place where gods hold meetings. Only gods with divine thrones can stay in the pantheon. The city of the gods is a real city, and even humans can live here. Moreover, the city of gods is the real kingdom of gods, with completely different laws from the real world. Human beings living in the city of the gods cannot live forever, but their lifespan can be extended 1,000 times. Moreover, the human soul can live in the city of the gods after death. As long as the city of the gods is immortal, the human soul can live forever. The city of the gods should indeed have a large number of inhabitants. In the Greek mythology of another world, there are golden humans who are like gods. These golden humans can enjoy a carefree life during their lifetime. And after death, they become patron saints in the clouds who uphold justice and judge evil. Roy looked at the ground and said, Alina, in the past, humans from different regions and different ethnic groups have been fighting for their own survival. Therefore, the reason for the existence of gods is to guide humans who worship themselves and help humans defeat their enemies. But after the establishment of the Athenian Empire, because the Athenian Empire was the most powerful country in the world, so the Athenian Empire does not need the guidance of the gods, nor does it need the help of the gods to defeat the enemy. In the Athenian Empire, the gods have lost their original meaning of existence. So I want to fight for the gods of the Athenian Empire formulate a new reason for existence. From now on, the main responsibility of the gods of the Athenian Empire is to uphold justice and judge evil, so that the Athenian Empire can always maintain a kind and fair environment. After listening to Roy's words, Alina frowned and said, My dear, do you want us to keep monitoring the humans on the earth? Then how can we have time to be with you all the time? Roy shook his head and said, Of course I won't let you keep spying on mankind. I plan to let the talents with outstanding contributions among mankind become the patron saints in the clouds after death, responsible for safeguarding justice and judging evil. These patron saints who become gods after the death of mankind they will become residents of the city of the gods and servants who serve us. We are the main gods who uphold justice and judge sins. But the specific work is completed by the protector gods who serve us dear. Can those humans accept this kind of oppression? Why don't they accept it? Roy said confidently. In the new era, those human beings simply don't have enough achievements to become gods after death. So I allow them to become protector gods after death. Their work as protector gods is a willing transaction. In order to become protector gods, I am willing to be. We must exploit more humans than you can imagine. February. Roy married Metis and created Metis City of the Gods. March. Loie married Mnemosyne and created Mnemosyne City of the Gods. April. Roy married Persephone and created Persephone's City of the Gods. At the end of April, Chang'e gave birth to a daughter, whom Roy named Xuantu. Seeing his third daughter being held in Chang'e's arms reminded Roy of the jade rabbit held in Chang'e's arms in another world. May. It's December in the blink of an eye. Roy used his identity as a god to hold a wedding ceremony with Procne and Philomela once again. Because Procne and Philomela have not yet become gods, Roy did not build the 12th city of the gods with Procne and Philomela, ushering in a new era of comprehensive peace. Although Roy no longer goes to the battlefield, his life is busier and he has even become a master of time management. Because Roy had to arrange time to spend time with dozens of human girls and goddesses. As Icarus, Talos, and Black Rabbit grow up, Roy will also accompany his daughters and educate them as successors. 1580 BC. Because the system of the Athenian Empire was completely stable, all of Roy's human wives left the human world and entered the city of gods in the sky as goddesses. Procne and Philomela, who became goddesses, also received the cities of the gods. The Athenian Empire, which was too large in territory, was handed over to the management of Loie's three daughters. The first district of the Athenian Empire, Asia, Europe and Africa, was managed by Procne's daughter Talos. The second area of the Athenian Empire, the New World, was administered by Philomela's daughter Icarus. The third district of the Athenian Empire, the Eastern region, was managed by Chang'e's daughter Xuantu. As the daughters of Roy, Talos, Icarus, and Black Rabbit will all become immortal goddesses. But they won't stay in the human world forever. 50 years later, they will go to the heaven composed of 12 cities of gods. Loie would send new daughters to run the Athenian Empire in their stead. Extra 1. 1560 BC. After 20 years of development, the heaven made up of 12 cities of gods has been completely formed. Many devout humans also became residents of the city of gods and protectors of mankind after death, sharing the work of the gods headed by Loie in upholding justice and judging evil. City of the gods above Athens. This is the city of the gods created by Roy, Procne, and Philomela. The people who live in this city of the gods are also goddesses deified by humans. The pantheon in the center of the city. Roy sat on the throne of his god king, covering the entire heaven with his huge consciousness, watching all living things on the earth. Although as a god, Roy will no longer directly interfere with the human world. But Roy has not given up guiding the human world. Now, the tens of millions of residents living in the Athenian Empire's territory of hundreds of millions of square kilometers have fully entered the Iron Age. If we go further, the Athenian Empire will climb up the technology tree towards the Industrial Age. However, the progress of science will make humans less and less dependent on gods. This is clearly not in the interests of the gods. The most important thing is that scientific progress will make human beings themselves weaker and weaker, and can only rely on continuously innovative weapons. Throughout history, technological progress is the real Ragnarok. Roy looked towards the void above the sky and said, "In this era, human beings can use their own power to become enemies of 10, hundreds or even thousands. This is also the era I want. Since the future of scientific and technological progress does not meet my expectations, then let this world become a magic world. I want to create elemental elves in this world so that humans can control the elemental elves to use magic. Are you willing to help me? This will of course be very beneficial to us. We can create rules. Human beings must believe in a certain person. Only by deity can you gain the authority to control elemental spirits and become a magician. Even warriors who cannot become magicians must believe in gods in order to receive the blessings of gods and become demigod heroes." Roy was not talking to himself, but communicating with all the goddesses in a group chat-like manner. Demigod hero. In this era, the emergence of demigod heroes among humans will only become a factor of instability. Although human demigods are not enough to challenge our children, too much power will make their ambitions expand. The new era does not require the emergence of demigod heroes. That is indeed the case. Roy explained to the goddesses. But not long ago, I observed the existence of another world. It is very similar to this world and can be called a parallel world, restricted by the rules of the world. We, as gods, cannot directly descend that world, but we can train humans into demigod heroes, and then let the human demigod heroes go to other worlds as our gods' apostles. Conquer the other world for us, and then call us to come. Both worlds become our territory. We can advance to a higher realm in the realm of gods. After listening to Roy's explanation, the goddesses no longer objected and were full of curiosity about the other world. Extra 2. 1550 BC. New World. Icarus has ruled the New World as queen for 30 years. On the Caribbean Sea, a demigod hero, blessed by the goddess of the ocean, was smashed into the depths of the sea by Icarus' huge fist condensed with divine power. You lose. After announcing his victory to the demigod hero who challenged him, Icarus' body turned into a golden stream of light and flew to the north. Somewhere in the Arctic, in the middle of the ice and snow, there was a round table. There are 3 girls sitting next to the round table, namely Queen Icarus who rules the New World, Queen Talos who rules Asia, Europe and Africa, and Queen Black Rabbit who rules the East. Although they are all over 30 years old, time has not left any traces on them. They look like girls around 16 years old. Not only their age, but also their hearts seem to have stopped growing. With clear and innocent eyes, some Arctic penguins gathered around curiously, like subjects of their respective commanders. In this world of ice and snow at -50 degrees, Talos was sipping a cup of steaming black tea. As the eldest sister, Icarus looked at his 2 younger sisters, as if he were staring at prey. "Sister, I am getting really bored. Although there will be some stupid human demigods who are crazy enough to challenge me, they are too weak. You are the only ones in the human world who can be my opponent. Although this is true, Father God prohibits us from fighting." Schwantu said calmly. "If we fight to determine the winner, it may destroy the relationship between us." After drinking all the black tea in the cup, Talos looked up at the sky and said, "My mother once told me that outside the territory of the Athenian Empire, there are some gods that were not eliminated by Father God in the past and are still alive. If you really want an opponent, you can challenge those fallen gods." "That is," Icarus said hesitantly, "that is something expressly forbidden by God the Father. For our safety, we must not leave the territory of the Athenian Empire. Fighting between our sisters is also forbidden by Father God." Talos teased teasingly. "If you want to ignore Father God's rules, instead of breaking the rules that say we can't fight, it's better to break the rules that say we can't go to the evil god's realm." Makes sense. Even though he knew that Talos was using provocation, Icarus still agreed. "Then I will go to the kingdom of evil gods outside the Athens Empire to see what kind of strength the fallen gods, who were defeated by Father God in the past, have. Do you want to go with me?" Schwantu shook his head and said, "If Father God discovers us, We will definitely be punished. Talos said immediately. Since 10 years ago, Father God and Mother God have been paying attention to the other world. Now, no one will come to stop what we want to do.